Hi guys. Everyone
She's eating her like low sugar smart sweets, and then it's making her dance a lot. So be warned.
Everyone just give me a little jiggy.
It's an artificial
It's
sugar
like
high.
a little jiggy. No one.
There we go. Ray's got some moves. She's got some moves. Ava, I like your moves too.
Hi guys.
What's up, ladies?
Hello, Jasmine, Alexis, Alicia, Allison, Anna, Andrea, Ariana, Ashley, Bree, Carly. I'm gonna run it to Jennifer. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
Hi guys. Wait, I want to see everyone's faces. I can see everyone. Hi. Hi, Maddie. Hi, Janet. Hi,
So
Allison.
in the chats, how are your guys' weeks going in isolation?
In isolation.
Good.
Tell us about your time.
Throw it in the chat box.
If you guys are hopping on, go ahead and mute
No,
yourselves.
I muted everybody.
Oh, cool. That was our bad.
That was me.
So much ice cream. That's awesome. Well, on these meetings, all we see is from here up. So you're good. Over here, you don't see how much ice cream I've been eating. I've been eating a bunch of ice cream.
No, we've been eating a lot of homemade Twix bars.
That's true.
You guys, I made homemade Twix bars. They are bomb. They are so good. I'm actually going to post the recipe in the Facebook group so that you can make them because you're missing out without them.
You spend too much time on Pinterest and you will make 5 different kinds of desserts.
That's what I did this
36 minutes.
That's what I did. I would love for you to, if you're new and this is your first call, for you to wave at the camera, but for like 10 seconds straight, just like a continual wave.
If you're new,
Alicia,
if this is your first call.
Hey, Karen. Hey, Jasmine. Keep waving. Hey, Jessica.
Jessica Carter, Becca.
Becca, Jacqueline, Rebecca, Danielle. Hi, welcome. Rachel.
Rochelle.
Oh, Rochelle.
It rolls off the tongue.
No, she's got some more soul. It's like Rachel, but with soul. I love
this
it.
Is awesome.
Welcome,
Stephanie.
you guys. We're so glad to have you. Thank you for trusting us. If we didn't call your name and you're new, throw it in the chat box so that we can welcome you as well. But happy Thursday. This is our favorite time of the week. Like the best time of the week because we get to get connected with you guys again.
And if this is your first call, if there's any like nervousness or there's any stress or any fears that are coming up, just allow yourselves to just be in whatever space you're in. We're not going to highlight you, put you on the spot or anything like that. Give me 1 second.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not going to put you on the spot, but if this is your first call, a really good idea and what we always ask is just to sit and be an observer in the beginning because you'll probably learn how these calls go. You'll pick up a lot. And the other thing is you probably have a million questions because you're just starting. You're like, okay, how do I solve every problem that I'm dealing with internally? I'm freaking out and I just watched some of the training and now it's bringing up all my stuff and how do we get rid of it right now? You know, it's like, it's going to take time. And you want to give yourself grace in this process and you want to love on yourself and you want to get connected to God and you want to also, one of the unique things about the group and the community is that seeing other people and experiencing them and experiencing their vulnerability, it actually gets to be an impartation to you. It actually it's going to allow your heart to ease deeper into safety and see that these women are being brave with their hearts and their messes and seeing the way that they're met with love in those moments. It starts to put your heart at ease and lets you sink into this place where you're like, I can actually show up. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want for you. Miranda, welcome. Ava.
Welcome.
Awesome. So glad you're having pajama day.
Eva.
So before we get started, we'd love to just dive into some prayer and speak some things over your guys' hearts and just get into a really present space before we get going and we start walking through how today's call is going to go. Before we do that, actually, I'd love to hear, I'd love to see some wins. If you guys have had any amount of wins in the program at all, recent wins, things that you guys have overcome, breakthroughs that you've gotten recently, just post it in the chat box. I'd love to just have us start out with some good news.
Wins in confrontation. Yeah.
If you guys
Financial
can,
breakthrough.
if you guys can give any details too inside of your wins, I'd love to see some actual details.
Holly started the first week. That's a breakthrough. God keeps showing up, letting me know that he's here. I love that.
So
Moments of
good.
listening without distracted mind to my kids. Experiencing love in Jesus in a whole new way. Connected with my daughter's father and had a sense of peace after not seeing him for almost a year.
That's
huge,
deal.
Kendra. I love
Good
that.
for you.
Carly, learning to want to be with little me. For those of you who are new, it's okay. You don't have to understand that. Don't get weirded out.
Little me, what does that mean?
Ashley said, I finally overcame my story of pain and it showed and shared it with the group. It literally took me 2 months to do it. Good for you, girl. It's vulnerable. That's one reason why I made that homework, because it requires a high level of vulnerability. And what I've found is the more vulnerable that you are, the more freedom that you get, because it gives more opportunity for you to be seen and known and then get met with love in that spot. And that breaks shame and self-hatred like crazy. So I love that you did that. Yay.
Kristen asked for help on a job position. Mary,
Awesome.
a lot of self-awareness and revelation. So good. Steph, stepping away from my old toxic patterns faster and with more ease.
Wow. Yay.
So cool. Having more encounters with my papa and listening to my heart.
Love it.
Kristen said forgiveness for someone and that person apologizing to me.
Whoa.
Wow. Lauren said I was able to have a conversation with my dad and have him actually listen and try and hear what I was saying, even though he doesn't understand it.
Wow. That's huge.
It's cool that you probably postured your heart in a way that you were able to receive what he had to give too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so powerful when you're in the grieving process of moving your parents out of what you feel like you wish they could be and what they can't be. You know, Hannah said starting to learn how to take ownership and boundaries with work and trying to figure out how to approach it in a way that's healthy for me. So good. Forming new neural pathways in my brain. My identity is secure. My values never on the line. I love that, Bree. Portia said beginning to practice active, powerful communication of my needs to others in small ways, baby steps. It's awesome. Man, there's so much in here. Lindsay said, God keeps speaking clearly, becoming aware of my pain and super connected to my spirit. Lindsay, that's crazy because I remember your comments. You were saying almost some opposite stuff a couple weeks ago. And so that's actually some big stuff that you've walked through. I love that.
So good.
Lindsay Cermak quieted my heart with the Father this morning. Catherine, heart healing from 7 years ago when I stopped trusting God in finances.
Whoa.
Man.
Huge, guys. There's
Sarah,
35 more. These are rad.
This is
so
amazing
good.
Stuff. Oh. Okay, we're gonna have to take a look at those again.
And Grace is smiling again. Look at that face. We love you, Grace.
Ashley Smith has us on a walking vacation in Hawaii. That's great. I heard Hawaii is a pretty place, so enjoy your walk with your dogs.
She's like, mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I'd love to just start out with prayer for you guys, and then we can jump into our day. So if you guys could just go ahead and close your eyes, except for you, Ashley, because I don't want you to fall over. If you guys could close your eyes and just get into a space where you feel like you can be as present as possible. And if you're feeling any anxiety, if you're feeling any fears or any pain or distraction, it's okay to sit in it. Just for this moment, I give you permission to be exactly where you're at. If you feel connected to joy and peace, stay connected to joy and peace. If you feel really connected to yourself, stay connected to yourself. If you feel really disconnected, I encourage you to let yourself off the hook. I want you just to ease into whatever place you're in right now. And Holy Spirit, I just ask that you show up for every single one of your kids. I thank you that you're a good dad. That we've actually never known a father like you. We've never known a good dad like you. None of us have ever known a good dad like you. Just for every lady right now, just give your heart permission to be open. To let go of different things that you've experienced from any religious leaders or people that have painted an unhealthy version or view of God, that have given you a destructive or demeaning or dangerous experience of God, that they were doing the best that they knew how. And I'm sorry that when you were so trusting and so open and so hungry for the people in their humanity that have led you to a God that he's not. I give you permission to be open to a love your heart may have never experienced before. I give your hearts permission to be surprised by his goodness. That in Titus 2:11, it actually says, by his grace and unmerited favor and blessing has taught us to renounce ungodliness. That it's not his control, it's not manipulation, it's not enough do-goodism or works that's going to heal you. It's actually his goodness and his unmerited favor and blessing that's going to lead you to renounce any ungodliness in your life or your world. That if you're living in pain or sin, that you can expect unmerited favor and blessing coming your way. When it's unmerited, the only thing that you can do to have it is let go of your merit. And over every single woman in your room right now, or in your car, or outside on a walk, I just want to speak over your heart that your pain is so seen that you don't have to shove it. You don't have to mask it. That you're not more spiritual for just shoving it and putting on a good face. That God loves you right now. And even in the moments where you've hated yourself most, or you've disqualified yourself from love, he hasn't. He hasn't disqualified you. I give you permission to divorce yourself from disqualification, that it was never from God. He actually calls you a daughter. That no one in history had ever come to reveal the Father except for Jesus. That if you don't see it in the nature of Jesus, in his healing, in his love, in his grace, in the way that he died for people, that it's actually not in the Father's nature. If you don't see it in Jesus, it's not in the Father. He's a good dad and he loves you and he wants to spend time with you more than you want it. As a man, I want to tell you that I am so sorry. I'm sorry that impossible standards have been placed on you. I'm sorry for the ways you were convinced that those were good things to grab onto. I'm sorry that you were sold the lie that if you can just hate yourself or dislike yourself in different messes, then you'll have good behavior and then you'll be worthy of acceptance. You'll be worthy of love. I'm so sorry that you were convinced that that's true, that that's how you do it. As a man, I just want to say, I invite you to come to the table. I invite you in your full power. I invite you to be a demonstration of God's artwork. That when you shame the art, it doesn't glorify the artist. That you being great actually glorifies God as a dad. He's most glorified when you're fully alive. Shame, you've never been a good protector. Shame, you have never helped us make good decisions. Shame, you've never been a friend. You've never helped us in a time of need. And shame, your voice sounds so good sometimes. It sounds like a helper. It sounds like it's comfort. It sounds like it's going to get us to the next step. But shame, you have been nothing but a liar over every single person. Shame, you have been destructive. You have convinced people that they do not have value. Shame, you are a filthy, filthy liar. And I just pray over every single woman on this call that God, you'd show up tangibly for them. It wouldn't be a concept. You wouldn't be a concept or a theology anymore. You'd actually be a person in their life and world. That you show them how closely connected you are with them. That you said in Romans 6:11 that we're in unbroken fellowship with you. I pray that you make that a reality for every single woman on the call, that their spirits would be convicted that that is true. That Holy Spirit, you'd make yourself so real and known to every single woman.
And with your eyes closed, I want you guys to all get really present with the thing that's weighing you down this week. What's that thing? If you've been feeling something and you're not quite sure what it is, I want you to say heart. What's weighing you down? And then the first thing you hear, I want you to trust it. And if you didn't hear anything, you can say, Jesus, what am I holding on to? And as soon as you're present and aware with that thing, I want you to see Jesus in front of you in all of his glory, in all of his goodness, in all of his kindness. I want you to picture him saying, give that to me, kiddo. That thing that you're carrying was never yours to begin with. That voice that you've partnered with, honey, it's not my voice. I want to carry your burdens. And every time you pick them up again, you disconnect from me. And there's an invitation for you to let go of all of that and to trust me. So would you loosen your grip on that thing that you've been holding on to? And whenever you're ready, I want you to see yourself just handing it over to him. Whatever he looks like, whatever you're experiencing, whether you're seeing something or feeling something, it's all relevant. But I want you to hand it over. And I want you to keep your grip open. I want you to keep it loose and light. I want your hands to be in that place of surrender where you're open-handed. And Jesus, I thank you for building trust with each woman on this call. That trust is earned. Trust is not just given. It's earned. And you know that. And you're not afraid of taking time to build it with every single one of these ladies. Jesus loves taking time to earn and to build trust with you because it means he gets to have more intimacy with you. He doesn't care if your grip is on things, if your grip is on your circumstances. He's not shaming you for holding on to it. Who I know him to be is just bummed out because he's like, man, I'm missing out on connection right here. I just wish she knew me in this area. I wish she knew that I could carry everything that she's holding on to and 1,000 times more. I can carry all of that and she can just rest and enjoy my presence. All he cares about is connection with you. So I want you to keep those hands open. And now I want you to take a few deep breaths. Really, really deep. In through your nose, out through your mouth. A few more times. In through your nose, out through your mouth. A few more. In through your nose, out through your mouth. In through your nose. And I want you to exhale fear. Let go of fear. And I want you to inhale love. I want you to exhale doubt. I want you to inhale trust. And I want you to exhale disconnection. And inhale connection and intimacy. Breathe them in. Breathe them in. And Holy Spirit, I thank you for encountering every single woman right now and on this call tonight. That every single need they have, every desire, every longing in their heart, that you, Jesus, are fully capable of taking care of these women. This is where we get to step into cultivating intimacy with you and trusting that you're our leader, that you're our teacher, that you're our mentor and our father and our mother, that you want to come in and supply every single thing that we need, every good thing. I want you to get present with the thing that you're desiring for tonight. Like, what are you really wanting to get out of this call tonight? Or what are you really wanting to get out of this week or this entire program? Put that thing in front of you, and I want you to ask him, Jesus, can you give me this thing? Can you satisfy this thing that I'm longing for? Are you capable? And then whatever he says, whatever you feel, whatever you sense, whatever you see, I want you to trust it. And if you feel like you're disconnected or not hearing anything, that's okay. It happens over time. It's not scary. There's nothing wrong with you if you can't connect with him. There's nothing wrong with you at all. You just haven't exercised that muscle, and it'll happen. And then I want you guys to throw in the chat box, what did he say or what did he do whenever he said that I'm guessing he said he could satisfy that need. But I want you to just share with us and with the girls, like, what were you seeing Jesus do? How did he respond to you? What did you feel? What did you see in the spirit, or what did you sense, or what was the thought that came to mind? And if there's nothing, or if it feels something like sweet and sacred that you don't want to share, you don't have to share it. It's okay. He smiled and said, he said, of course, and I felt peace. He smiled and said, I am your rest. He said, more than you can possibly imagine. We're going places, kid. I love it. He said, I am capable, and don't worry, Carly. I will win. We will win. Christina said, yes, if you give it to me. He said, your worth and who you are is separate from being a mom. I love that. He told me he would supply me with the tools to do this myself. I love it. Comfort, love, acceptance. If I'm willing to receive him, he can. He said, oh, child, I'll bless you beyond that. I love it. He reached out for my hand and he pulled me in for a hug. He said, babe, I can handle anything.
If you guys, and if any of you are feeling like I couldn't hear him or I couldn't sense him, take some of these for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, actually allow these to be your own. Whatever
like stands out to you and feels sweet or hits your heart or feels like the thing that you're needing, just receive it for yourself. And I'll read a few more, but I would love for you ladies who didn't ever hear God's voice before starting this program, or didn't feel sensitive to him, or weren't as close to him as you are now. Like, I want you to throw in the chat box if you've grown in your sensitivity to hearing his voice or feeling his presence or encountering him. I just want to paint a picture of just hope for any of the ladies who are like fresh to this. If this is like, I remember feeling so triggered whenever I realized that people could hear God and have like experiences with him, and I couldn't. I just felt like, oh no, there must be something wrong with me. Like, why can they hear that or experience that and I can't? And I ended up learning enough to make it an invitation to be like, oh, if they have access to that, then I do too. It's just cultivating that. It's
Like-
getting sensitive to his voice and his presence.
The truth is, like, we don't want you to need us. 6 months from now, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years from now, we don't want you to need us. We want you to need God. We really want you to actually meet with the one that's way better at his job than we are.
Yeah. Grace said, when I encounter him now, he feels like my husband instead of this far away, distant God. I love that. And that's actually biblical. Like, we're the bride of Christ. We're his bride. That means like he is our man. And I've experienced him in different facets and different seasons, like where he feels like a father or a brother or a friend or a leader or a husband. I love it. Julie said, I definitely have. And conversations have gotten more dynamic and real. I love that. I've definitely been able to connect with God a lot more through this program. It comes and it goes though. That's normal. I feel like I can always have conversations with him if I make time. I love it. Since I surrendered my fears to him, I could hear him more and feel him almost every day. I'm still cultivating our connection. I love this. These are so good.
Like, the truth is that religion and Jesus both offer you different solutions to connect with God. And religion offers you that you have to live completely perfect to be connected to God. And that's what the Pharisees came to tell all the people in the Jewish church. They were like, you have to live this way. And they set this standard that you had to live to in order to have connection with God and be good enough for him. And then what goes aligned with that is that we have to do everything to build trust with God. We have to do everything on our own to build trust with God. And then Jesus came and he was like, if you've ever read 1 Corinthians 13, it says, love trusts all things. In 1 Corinthians 13:7, it says, love believes all things, love trusts all things. What's so crazy is in 1 John 4:19, it says, we love because he first loved us. If you've been trying to create your own love for people, for him, if you've been trying to muster it up yourself, you're trying to build trust with God, it's not the right way. The best way to do is to give up and actually receive his gift, receive what he has for you in your mess before you can add one thing to the table. Babies are not valuable to their parents because of what they can give. Babies are valuable because parents just innately love them. They just want them. They just desire them. They're so cute and precious. They can't offer a single thing. Jesus at 30 years old did nothing in ministry yet. And the Father said from heaven to everybody, this is my son with whom I'm well pleased. Before he did one thing in ministry, not a miracle, not anything. This is my son with whom I'm well pleased. If you've been trying to earn your way into connection with him, you're going to fail miserably. And self-hatred is going to say, I have love for you as this dangled carrot the moment that you can perform all these different ways.
Yeah.
Perfect love says, I'm going to love you in this mess, in this mess, in this mess, in this mess, so much until you just feel like it's a knee-jerk reaction to come to me.
So good, babe. Maddie said, and then we'll move on. I just want to read a couple more because they're so good. Maddie said, his responses are much more gracious to me. I gave him all the pieces of my shit, the subjects I don't feel healed from, that looked like blocks, and he threw all the blocks in the ocean.
Yeah.
I love it. And a few of you are saying, I feel like I can't hear him. Or Alicia said, I listen to my inner voice. I don't put pressure on my mind to search for that voice.
It's awesome.
I think a lot of the time our inner voice actually is his voice. Because like whenever we give our life to Jesus and the Holy Spirit comes and lives in us, we're one. We're one with him. Like
Your old self is dead.
There's no separation between us and God. You're one with him and he's abiding in you, and the Holy Spirit's made you his home. And so I've actually built a lot of trust with, I used to feel like I needed to search for this outside voice or signs and all these different things, like to see if God was communicating with me. And the deeper I've grown in my connection with God, the more I'm like, oh, actually, like that thing that's coming up and that thing that I'm connected with, it sounds like love. It sounds like truth, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness. It sounds like him. And if there's the fruits of the Spirit there, it's the Spirit. And so I've built a lot of trust recognizing, oh, that inner voice that I thought was mine is actually God talking to me. If it leads to life, it's God. If it leads to death, it's you or Satan when it comes down to it. So you can build trust with that thing that's leading you to love. Okay, we can move on. I love all of these. I wish I could read all of them.
So, um, basically, with the way that we're going to do the call today is, you guys have a ton of wins, you know, and then there are a lot of you that have areas that you feel stuck, or things that you have been learning situations, or things that you've tried that didn't work, or things that you've been working through and you're like, I'm just feeling stuck. Some of you probably feel like there's intense overwhelm in different moments, and that powerlessness, that voice is saying it's always going to be this way, nothing's ever going to change, it's going to be like this forever, because that story feels so common and known for you, right? And that's not true. It's not true. And when you're on this process, it takes time. And sometimes it can look like there's 1,000 rocks that we need to turn upside down to get through this process. But really, those 1,000 different things are usually just connected to one thing. For me, it's been how hard I am on myself. Everything usually comes back to, Spencer, you're being hard on yourself again. Yeah. That inner critic voice that sounds a lot like my mom when I was younger. It sounds a lot like different people around me, or the performance culture in my family.
And that voice that says you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough. You need to earn, you need to build, you need to do in order to get love.
There's going to be something and a theme that you find in this process where, while you're navigating things, you're going to be like, this is one of the things I want to work through in this process. Not all 1,000. You don't want to be going after all these different things, or navel gazing, looking for all these things you need to work through. It's like, find the one thing that you feel like God's grace is on in this process, where it's like, cool. For me, it's just self-hatred for the next several weeks. Mm-hmm. I want to really battle self-hatred and learn to meet with unconditional love in this process. I want to learn that pain doesn't destroy me. You know, but for tonight, I want you guys to, in the chat, give us some details. And if you could just put question mark, question mark, question mark, and then write down a question of like, this is an area that I felt stuck. Give some details about it and some things that you've tried getting through that sticking point. And then we'll start with that. And if you guys could just post those in the chat box, give us some details and what you've tried to get past it. And we're going to go through one by one, at least for the next portion of time for the call. And when we do go through questions this way, the purpose isn't to help one person and then everybody else be spectators while we're just helping one person. The goal is that while we're working with a person, you guys are all using that as an experience to let it be something that you can utilize in your process and in your journey. Like, what's God doing for you in that moment? Personalize it. Allow God to be talking to your heart and giving you something that's a gift or a need in that moment. Allow your heart to engage with it. Don't be an observer. Don't be just someone that's waiting. Like, actually allow yourself to immerse in every single story that comes up, every moment, so you can really milk this entire process. The goal is that you learn tools and process for sustainability.
I like this one.
Great.
Bree, could we chat with you? Are you cool with having a conversation with us?
Yeah. Hey guys.
So you said, I'm stuck in feeling great loss of dreams. I think I've connected past how I view the Father. Would you dive into that a little bit more for me?
Sure. Okay, so a little backstory to connect it to all this, but 35, I lost my marriage at 30. And 3 years ago, I went to Bethel and sat with a prophetic team, and they had incredible prayers over me. And one of them was, they talked about how I was worthy of being cherished and that the Father was going to restore things in my life. And until I learned my identity as daughter, my identity as bride, that the promises of God would be on hold for me. So that started a 3-year journey of, I've got things to figure out. I've got to figure out my identity and who I am and find some breakthrough. So that's connected to almost this panic of not feeling his restoration yet, watching other people receive the blessings that I've been praying for, striving for, feeling like I'm watching people come into relationship a lot more quickly, and it's just stinging with the work I'm trying to put in. And I think what I've connected it to that I mentioned is growing up. Anytime my mom would find out that I had dreams or something I was excited about, being on the basketball team, somebody I really loved, a close friend, if she discovered what that dream was, she would forbid me to see them, or she would remove me from the team or whatever it was I was a part of. And so anytime I verbalize or start expressing my desire for um, being a team with a man, being in a healthy relationship, and being with a godly man, I have incredible fear over when I watch other people receive that, or I think that I'm just going to be frozen and watching other people receive it and never get it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That my deepest desires are going to be exposed and then they're going to be shattered by the Father.
That makes so much sense.
It's super painful too.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. First off, like, I'm sorry that you get a really good word from God, but then it almost feels like bait. Like you get this win, blank, and then on top of that, that word and the fulfillment of that word feels like a dream. But what you were taught your entire life by your mom, what I felt from the Lord whenever you share that about your mom is that your mom has so much disappointment and hopelessness in her life that she sabotaged your dreams because she was so afraid of you experiencing disappointment or loss. And it's almost like this self-destructive thing. And I could totally be wrong. That was just my sense. But I'm so sorry that your mom didn't create a space where you could have hope, where you could have dreams, where you could have vision and something that you were moving towards. That it always felt like if you did connect with any kind of hope, that it would be crushed. Like she literally ingrained in you to not have hope and to not have dreams. And obviously, like, a good job getting self-aware and being able to tie it to that root. And B, obviously that's going to affect the way that you view God, because it was a huge way of how you were parented, right? And if God is your dad, if he's a parent, then that's going to totally translate into, okay, so here's this thing that I'm dreaming about, but if I have any hope or anything I'm looking towards, God's just going to crush it because that's what mom always did, subconsciously. But I'm just sorry before anything else. That's super, super painful. And that sucks to carry. You're pretty much trained to not hope. And so I first just want to validate that and give you some compassion in that. Like, I think the biggest way to instill love and acceptance in a child is to celebrate, no matter how dumb or wild or extravagant it is, to celebrate a kid's dreams, to give them permission to keep dreaming and to just keep going after it. And so I'm just sorry you never got that.
And in the chat too, how many people resonate with that same feeling or that same pain?
I want to hear from you, Bree, before I move on. What comes up in you just as I was sharing and saying that about your mom and just sympathizing with you?
I think it definitely resonates, and it reveals like a deeper panic over the true, just how much I've been ravaged by it.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like that thing has almost become a part of your identity. And that makes it even more painful because no matter what you can do, it's like you keep rubber banding back to it.
Yeah. Would you close your eyes? I want you to go back to, and anyone else who relates with this on any level, just feeling like you, whether it's you didn't have permission, you feel afraid to connect with hope, you feel like God doesn't want to give you good things, because that's essentially what this comes down to. And I know that's a really prevalent belief in the church, is that God doesn't want to give us good things.
And that's why most people either completely turn away from him or live in this pain of powerlessness and hopelessness.
But if you relate with anything that Bree has shared or that we've shared so far, I want you to close your eyes too. In Bree's heart, I want you to take Bree back to the first moment that you remember having hopes and excitement and dreams. What's that very first thing that you were excited about? And Bree, you can unmute yourself, and any time that you have anything that comes to mind, you can share it with me.
You're saying first memory?
Yeah, or first thing that comes to mind.
I would say there's a female friend who was someone else's mom and older that I love dearly. I was forbidden to see anymore.
How old were you?
High school.
And what happened whenever your mom told you that you couldn't see her anymore? Will you explain some of that situation to me?
I felt like when I spent time around her, I was finding out a bit more of who I was, the healthy parts of myself. I was laughing. I felt joy. I felt alive. I didn't feel suppressed anymore. And it felt like part of me died um, to be forbidden to see her again.
I want to talk to high school you. Do you remember what age you were? Ish.
Probably around 15.
I want to talk to 15-year-old you. And I want you to see me coming into that memory and that moment with you and your mom. When it felt like that really, really good thing was being stripped away from you. When it felt like you finally had something that was good. You finally had hope. You finally had identity. You were seeing who you were. You were being mothered. You were laughing. You felt excitement towards life. And then the second you connect with mom, mom feels threatened. Mom felt inadequate. Mom was afraid that if you experienced a good mom, then she'd be found out. That you would decide that she wasn't enough. And that was her ultimate fear, because she already decided before that she wasn't good enough. But I want you to connect with that pain, that you had such a good thing in front of you and it was being taken away. And Bree, I just don't want to rush you past this moment. This is really sad. This is really sad. And you need space and room to be able to grieve this, because this is a loss. Honey, I'm so sorry that when it finally felt like there was hope in front of you, when you finally had a glimpse of who you were or who you could be in the relationships and the life that you could have, that it was taken away from you. I'm sorry that the way your mom mothered you and parented you has influenced and affected how you've seen yourself. It's affected the way that you've done life. And it's affected the way that you view God. This has affected and influenced your heart a lot. And you having time to grieve here is so healthy. And it's okay. And it's okay to be sad about it. But Brie, I also want to let you know, I just actually want to kind of mama you in this moment. I want to give 15-year-old Brie an experience of healthy mothering. Brie, that moment should have been celebrated. And I just want to let you know that if there's anything in your life that connects you with hope, I want to champion it. I want to create a space for you where you can have so much excitement, where you connect with so much vision, where you're so celebrating your life and who God made you to be. And if there is anyone that can bring anything in your life to make it better, then I want to celebrate that for you. I want to encourage you to find more of it. I want to encourage you to spend more time with the people that bring life to you, the people that show you who you were created to be. Brie, your dreams are so good. And God has so many good things for you. He has plans to prosper you. Every good thing comes from him. So if there are good things that have been spoken over your life, he wants to give it to you. It'd be against his nature for him to take it away from you. And right now with 15-year-old Brie, I just want to go back and I want to draw a line in the sand that creates a separation and a difference in who God is and his nature and who mom was. Because mom was insecure. Mom didn't feel like she was good enough. You finding out who you were and you seeing other good things in your life felt like a threat to mom. And that's really sad. But God isn't insecure. He could put a million really amazing parents in front of you and really good things. He could give you 1,000 really good gifts right now, and it wouldn't be a threat to him. He would be ecstatic because he would know if you experienced those good things, you'd be questioning how much better is God? If this is a good parent, if this is a good gift, how much does that reveal God's heart for me? How much better is he? It would only point to more of his goodness. So he'd want to give you those things. So Brie, I just want to let you know that even the places that your mom was messy and imperfect and insecure, it has nothing to do with God. And it has nothing to do with him wanting to give you really good things. In that area that in your heart that's just waiting for that promise to be stripped away, I want you to actually just put your hand over your heart right now. And I want you to repeat after me. Heart.
Heart.
I know you've been waiting for the other shoe to drop.
I know you've been waiting for the other shoe to drop.
I know you've believed.
I know you've believed.
God doesn't have good things for you.
God doesn't have good things for you.
You've believed that he wants to take from you.
You believe that he wants to take from you.
That he has bad intentions.
That he has bad intentions.
And heart, I'm sorry you were taught that.
Heart, I'm sorry you were taught that.
I'm sorry you had poor parenting.
I'm sorry you had poor parenting.
I'm sorry you weren't comforted.
I'm sorry you weren't comforted.
I'm sorry you weren't celebrated.
Sorry you weren't celebrated.
I'm sorry you weren't allowed to trust and believe and expect for good things.
I'm sorry you weren't allowed to trust and believe and expect for good things.
Heart, I give you permission to start building trust now.
Heart, I give you permission to start building trust now.
And I want you to actually see the Father standing in front of you. And when you feel like you can connect with seeing him or feeling his presence, I want you to say, God,
God,
do you want to give me good things?
do you want to give me good things?
What he's saying or doing.
I can't hear anything.
I want you to ask God, what's blocking me from you?
What's blocking me from you?
Are you hearing anything? Okay.
I want you to ask your heart, heart,
Heart,
what do you need for me to hear him?
what do you need from me to hear him?
What's the first thing you're hearing?
I think it's not fearing him as a punisher.
Hmm.
I want you to put your hand back on your heart. Say heart.
Heart,
What moment taught you that he was a punisher?
what moment taught you he is a punisher?
Any thoughts or feelings you're sensing?
Yeah. I'd say it's another memory connected with my mom. It was the first time I ever really became connected and excited about God in high school. And after I started going to this Bible study, I was forbidden to go to it anymore. And so that's connected with both him and my mom.
How long have you been in the program, Bree?
Since January, beginning of January.
Um, how much process have you done around understanding your mom and how much she's played a part in your relationship with God?
I don't think I've gotten to that yet. It doesn't sound familiar.
That makes sense. Here's what I want to do. I feel like I don't want to just rush into getting a resolve in this. Not because I think it's great to feel pain, but
There's layers.
there's layers of this. And I think that this is probably the main thing connected to your relationship with God, because it sounds like every way that you've seen him has been an experience with your mom.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I had to walk through is is actually removing my pressure to take care of my mom, and not actually giving my heart permission to feel pain towards her. Because the truth is that your mom really let you down in a lot of ways. And the goal in processing around mom is not to create a villain out of her, but it's to understand where she failed, because it's our parents' responsibility to represent God to us for our developmental years. And she was a representation of the feminine nature of God and his comfort and his love and care. And she really let you down. And
it's when you recognize, like when you can get really, really honest with yourself about their failure, it's actually really healthy, because we have this God-shaped hole in our heart, and our parents automatically go there until we know God for ourselves. And so mom's in God's spot, but until you realize how epically, like how royally she effed up, essentially, she'll stay in that God spot.
And forgiveness can't happen until we actually feel the weight of that. You know, a lot of people see forgiveness as, I'm just going to push it under the rug and move on and pretend like this doesn't affect me. But we actually have to feel the anger and the sadness and the grief, and feel those things and understand where we've actually put the face of our mom or dad onto God, and draw that line. And I think that there's a place where your heart really needs to grieve how much your mom has let you down, so that she can start to shift out of that spot, and you can start building a healthy connection to God in that area. And one of those ways, though, is I think would be healthy, is going, what are all the ways that I see God? What are all the attributes that I've actually connected to God or felt that he is this way?
Like
Punisher.
journaling this stuff.
He's felt like a punisher to me. Feels like he's going to take the rug out from under me. When things are good, it feels like he's going to steal that from me. It feels like he hangs my dreams in front of me like a carrot. You know, like all the things that you've made a story about God, like we can call those accusations, or it can just be a story or a narrative that we've created in our world because of our experiences. And then I want you to draw the parallel to where, like, where does this actually sound like mom in my life?
How mom treated me, things mom said to me, different ways she took things from me. And this goes for everyone. Like, there's dealing with the parent thing. We didn't even directly put it in the course. It's a whole other topic. And I know, especially in the church, we're like, okay, but honor your mother and your parents. Like, if it says to honor your mother, like your mother and your parents, your mother and your father, your mother and then your other set of parents. It's not it's not dishonoring to process through how they negatively affected you. Like, there's another verse that says, hate your mother and your father and follow me. Leave everything else and follow me. And so there's a process that we go on where it's actually really, really healthy for our hearts, but also for our connection with God, to be able to go on the journey of like, let me understand how my parents affected me, so I know what's at play in my inner world. Because a lot of times that's why our life circumstances are playing out the way that they are, because we never addressed and confronted our relationship with our parents, which directly views our view of God, which directly ties into our life and our circumstances.
I actually couldn't love my mom, like actually love her, until I saw her as a hurt and broken little girl that was trying to mother me in ways that she didn't have the skills or abilities to. And I had to move her out of my God spot of being a villain in my heart, where I didn't want to look at the fact that she was a monster to me. But it was playing out in every scenario with women, in my view of God and his comfort, and the way that, like, I felt like I had to do all the work in my relationship. And so it wasn't until I felt rage towards my mom and confronted her, removing her out of my God spot, until and actually sharing feelings with her. Confrontation didn't look like me accusing her, blaming her, and telling her how bad she was and throwing all this blame at her. It looked like letting her know how powerless I felt my entire life towards her. It looked like me letting her into all of the ways that I felt pain in moments that she mothered me in different ways. And then in that space, but I had to go through internally actually understanding that first before I could even have a dialogue. And I had to feel like there was an understanding of, like, oh, that's actually, this belief came from the way that I was parented here. This belief came from the way I was parented here. And it's every moment came back to your mom every time we asked you a moment. And it was
Yeah.
interesting. And mom taught you a lot of things about God that aren't true. And so does that all make sense?
It does. I've been with a counselor for 5 years, and he's even told me your mom's abused you here and here. And I've bristled, and I've been like, nope. Almost like I'm trying to protect her or just,
Yeah. That's what we do. There's this, like, it was so hard for me to even start my healing process because I was always justifying for my parents. No, but my dad was doing the best he knew how to do. No, but like my mom needed the money. That's why she lived off of me. That's why she kicked me out, is because this, and this. I would justify and I'd defend. But because our parents, like, even if they were awful parents, gave us their life by raising us, we feel this loyalty and devotion to them, which is why you'll see, like, when parents divorce, kids think it's their fault, right? We take ownership and responsibility for our parents' failures and imperfections. And so just know that it's normal, but you recognizing, like, me trying to stand up for my mom is doing my life, my future marriage, and my future relationship with my kids a total injustice and disservice.
There's an inner critic voice in your heart that says, this is bad. You're not allowed to do this. This is forbidden. And it's actually never been God's voice, but you internalized it as God's voice because of how your mom's been God to you in your God spot. Does that make sense?
yeah.
So homework. This goes for everyone who's ready. If this feels like too much for some of you and you're like, I'm not there yet, I'm dealing with something else, this is not your homework.
Yeah.
Don't future trip. Don't take on something that you're actually not supposed to go after right now. It's okay. But for Bree and whoever's like, oh, this is really prevalent for me right now, journal. How are all of the ways that I view God? What do I believe about him? Not the good things that I want to believe. What do I actually believe if I'm honest? Write those out. And then draw a line in the middle of your paper. And then
She went a little Spanglish right there.
I'm
Grab
like,
your papel.
I'm like Moses. I have a stutter. Is that Moses?
You're likening yourself to
And
Moses. That's
I am
great.
like Moses. I have a stutter. I'm a woman of few words. Draw a line in your paper and then write a parallel. Like, what are all of the ways that my relationship with my mom has directly affected this? Like, I believe that God wants to take away promises. Mom took away every good thing from me.
This is the clarity stage before
Process.
the process.
Start
there.
Start there.
I know it's gonna be super fun, but just keep actually inviting love into the experience. And this is for all of you too. It's the same thing. If you feel like, wow, God's voice has sounded like dad my entire life, this is actually pretty crazy. It sounded like dad. He's disconnected. He doesn't want, it's like with mom. That's
Can I
how it's
share?
been for me.
Can
Yeah.
I share a piece? Even 6 months ago, I hit this point where I felt super frustrated in my walk with God. I just was like, why is it like I try to spend time with him? I can always hear God's voice. It's never about hearing his voice. It's like I don't feel connected to him. He felt distant to me. And I know better because I know his nature. And I was like, why does it feel like I have to work and fight and spend more time or read more or have more meditation or whatever before I'm going to be connected to him? And I realized, oh my God, I've been trying to get my dad to fly out and spend time with me for the last 8 months. And for the life, we live in Hawaii. We have an extra room. We're right by the beach. These are like all of my dad's favorite things. And I'm like, Dad, come hang out with me. Come fly. Come see me. Come do this. And he'll fly to see my other sister in Texas. And he'll drive 9 hours to see my other sister in Northern California. And I can't get him to fly to an island across from the beach to spend time with me. And I realized I felt like I've had to do all of the work to cultivate connection with my dad. All of it. I'll get healthy so that maybe we can have a healthy relationship one day. I'll initiate conversation so that maybe we can have connection. I'll do the work. And that directly translated how I was viewing the Father, that I was going to have to go to him because he wouldn't dare hop on a plane to come to me. And I just was like, bingo. that one little area leaked into feeling like I had to fight for connection with God because he wasn't going to pursue me because dad never did. You know, so even like it goes to show like it's really freeing is what it is.
Yeah, it's what's nice is like this is probably the one main thing that you'll process through. Like
Yeah,
this is
that's your stone.
probably the main stone that you're going to be looking at here to turn over. And so make this the thing that you go after, like that inner critic. Once you start to identify that voice internally and know what it is, you're going to be able to move forward and be able to point anger away from yourself and towards that voice. Because at this point you've agreed with it and allowed it to be there because it's been so familiar that you're like, nope, that's God. I'm going to bring you in really close, that voice. Yeah, I'm going to bring you in really close, and then I'm going to feel all this pain, but I'm never going to actually point my anger towards the voice. I'm just going to keep pointing it towards myself and just be like, I must be wrong or bad here. I must be a bad girl if I'm wanting this. So I'm just going to fix that so that I'm not bad anymore. And it's like, no, when you start to identify the voice, you can point all your anger and ammunition towards the voice, and then you'll start to be free of it and go, actually, there's no cap on my growth.
Most people that go after healing, so like a lot of us have post-traumatic stress disorder and we don't even know it because we're like, I didn't go to a war, I wasn't in the military, I didn't have anything traumatic happen. And yet the way that we were parented has caused PTSD in our inner worlds. But the reason why most of us don't heal past that and don't actually overcome things is because we don't know how to identify that inner critic, that voice that sounds exactly like mom or dad's voice. And so we go after all these different things. Oh, it must be my insecurity. It must be this external thing. It must be this. But really, if you can start by identifying that inner critic and how it plays a part in your everyday dialogue in your inner world, that's like your first step to getting free.
And I added that we actually created a training on inner critic, and it's in week 3 now. So if you wanted to go back to week 3, there's an inner critic video in there if you wanted to go through that as well in tandem with this. And that's for everybody else as well.
Can I throw one thing in?
Okay.
Stacy said, how do we not do this to our kids for those of us who have kids?
Right.
First, we're not parents. So disclaimer, like we don't try to teach about what we don't have authority in. But what I will say is the work that I have done and the work that you guys are doing on getting healthy, you're doing it for you, but you're doing it for your kids and their kids and their kids. And so just know that first of all, you're going to fail them no matter what, because you're not God. They're going to need things that you can't give them. And ultimately that gets to be a gift to them. Like my parents royally screwing me over in their parenting has been such a gift because I have been through so much shit and God has healed and redeemed so much that I can reach so many different people because I've walked through the freaking fire. I've been able to relate with almost any human that I have talked to because of all the weird stuff that I've gone through.
And what Sarah said is your kids need a savior and it's not you.
And so it gets to be a gift ultimately. But on the other hand, I'm doing so much inner work on me because I know that it's going to leak in. Like if I can heal my heart with Jesus, and if I can go in and redeem past pain and identify that inner critic and things like that and bring God into these moments, then I get to step into more and more of who God's created me to be, which means I love better, I lead better, I'm a better wife. That love spills over into how I raise and parent my kids. And so the way to not do that to your kids is by you getting filled up with so much love. You going after your stuff, taking ownership for your pain, letting the Father come in and love you in all of these areas, and that will automatically overflow into how you parent.
And you just have to learn that you will let them down.
Be okay
just
with
100%.
It.
Your love will never be enough to satisfy people. And I'm just going to say that again. So if that needs to hit home for you, your love will actually never be enough to satisfy people. Mm-hmm. Your spouse, your kids, anyone.
Yeah.
It will never be enough.
She said, I think there's a way to direct them to God, encourage them to pray and seek after him.
Absolutely.
It's like I can imagine when I fail in different moments with my kids in the future, just being like, honey, I'm so sorry. Mama lost her ish just now. And just know that God is so good, and there are ways that I'm going to let you down, but God's not. But I want to just take ownership and let you know that I was being controlling right there, or I was afraid right there, and I overreacted right here. Like taking ownership for that stuff and redirecting them to Him, I think creates a really healthy view of like, oh, mom, God. Mom, God.
God is the only one that builds trust by being perfect. We build trust by the way that we clean up our messes.
That is a good line. Right? Will someone write that down and send it to me? Did you just make that up?
Yeah.
He's a freaking ninja, you guys.
How many of you guys, like for how many of you was that valuable? Like just that dialogue about mom, dad, inner critic.
Wave your hand at the camera instead of commenting it.
Okay, I wanted to see it in the comment section.
I know, but then there's like 100 comments, and then we have to scroll up higher to get to the other question.
Well, we spent a lot of time on it because I felt like there was a need to kind of go there, and I think it's really healthy, especially in the beginning of the process, to understand why is there so much self-hatred in my world. You know, it's like why do I actually feel like I'm never good enough? And if you actually sit in that pain instead of just feeling like the pain exists and there's nothing I can do about it, you understand that voice actually had a beginning. It had a start. There was a time that voice was really familiar, that all of a sudden we adopted it and we're like, I'm going to make that my own.
I'm seeing a huge theme of self-hatred. This goes for that voice of self-hatred too. That's been our biggest inner critic that we've had to fight through. That's my stone. Like Gus Spence is saying, it feels like sometimes I've got 1,000 problems and I'm so dysfunctional and there's 1,000 stones I need to turn over before I get healed. But actually it pretty much comes down to like 1 or 2 stones, 1 or 2 main things in your life that you struggle with. Like mine is that self-hatred. I'm not going to be enough. I'm never going to be pretty enough or smart enough or loving enough or powerful enough, whatever the dumb lie is. It boils down to the voice of self-hatred, which is that inner critic. So if you guys are feeling like this thing is coming up again, here I go again, like going back and recognizing, when did that voice come in and start to feel like a friend? Whose voice does that sound like? Did I adopt mom's voice saying that I wasn't enough? Did I adopt dad's voice? Like if we can narrow down to who does that sound like in my life, who said those things to me, then you figured out what you're at war with. It's not you're at war with, it's that voice of accusation that you partnered with. It's that inner critic that you've partnered with.
And it was familiar to them too. Once they're out of your God spot and they don't feel like a monster anymore, you can actually see them as an adult and be like, I can start to process forgiveness because I don't feel like you're a monster to me anymore. I see you for your own brokenness. I can start to I have so much compassion for my mom now because I walked through 1.5 years of confronting her. And it wasn't easy because I felt like I was a really, really bad person for telling mom how I felt and it hurting her because I made my mom's satisfaction my responsibility as a kid. But I had to actually break through that in order to feel like I'm not powerless to her. So from that place of feeling powerful as a man, I can see her as a broken little girl that never got healing in these areas, and I can love her and feel compassion for her, but not feel like her being okay is my responsibility anymore. And that codependency went away. And that's what you want to get past to actually powerfully forgive people. What do you think about which one?
Love you guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're so welcome. Long answer.
Thanks for bringing all that to the table. It's not easy, and thanks for being so vulnerable inside of that. It's super, super courageous.
Long response, long.
I know. She's like, first I was crying because it was impactful. Then I was crying because you talked for so long.
This one super stood out to me. What do you think?
That's a great one.
So Sarah said, I've always believed since I was young that the only way for God to be glorified was through my pain. This leaves no room for happiness. Like God only wanted to give me a sad life so that he could be glorified through my pain and resilience. I don't quite know how to move past that. Who else feels like this? I was literally like raised with that belief because my parents were just like, we're all broken and we all need Jesus and we're all going to stay broken so that we all keep needing Jesus, because that's how Christians do it. It's the worst. Okay, Sarah, I'd love for you to unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi.
I love that you're in the universe right
She's like,
now, and
This
you're
is my closet space with Jesus.
I love it.
nice.
I love it.
You're having intergalactic conversations with it. I want to hear first, because this is a heavy one and it's a big one, and there's so many ways to address it. I
Yeah.
want to hear first where you're at in the program, like in terms of the content, and then what you've done already in that process where you feel stuck. Does that make
Okay. Yeah, for sure. So I'm on week 1. I just started last week, and so for the homework, I'm doing one question every day. And so actually what I typed, that was the last thing I wrote down before I went to bed last night. And it was such a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I just put words to what I've felt my whole life, because I know that I've believed that ever since I was a kid. Like when I was really young, every time I'd watch something bad happen to someone else, I automatically was like, that's going to happen to me. So like even something like, oh, someone lost their husband on their wedding day, that's going to happen to me. And it's just like everything since I was a little kid. And so I think over the past several months, I've started to feel it and notice it. But like I said, I couldn't put words to it. And so I feel like when I wrote that down last night, I just kind of got shocked and then went to sleep.
sense?
Like, all right, tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, well, there it is. And I feel like I've just kind of been taught to like, okay, Sarah, you just have to tell yourself that that's a lie. That's not the truth. God does want to give you good things, but I think there's so much fear attached to that belief that even if I try to tell myself what I know to be true, it doesn't get past the feeling that like, oh nope, that's just gonna be my lot in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll just say something
No,
quick.
you're fine.
But, like with that too, a lot of us think, okay, so we read the Bible about like, okay, take every thought captive and just think different thoughts now. And all of a sudden I'm just going to think a different thought. And so, okay, that's what I'm going to do 1,000 times until it works. and then now I'm good.
Band-Aid.
You know, but that's all left brain. And what happened that taught us that is usually right brain, which is emotional. That's why we do so much of our program to get you connected in the heart, which heart is just language for what's emotional. You know, and it's not logical, because our thoughts are planted from development, which when we're in development, we're actually in moments having big emotional experiences attached to the way that our child brain makes sense of that emotional moment. And then so years and years later, this thought will be there and we won't even know until moments like this where you're like, what? You must have had just a relief or a freedom in just identifying like, whoa, there's language now that I have for this, right?
Yeah.
Because before, all you knew was that it emotionally affected you.
Yeah.
But now the logic did give you freedom, but logic isn't going to be the thing, like it gave you clarity. It's not going to be the thing that gives you freedom in it though, because your heart needs healing in that. There's an emotion attached to that belief statement. And one of the things I noticed was that when you were sharing about it, even when you were talking about like when I saw that somebody lost their husband, I felt like, you know, that was going to happen to me. I kind of felt you getting emotional for a moment. Like, did you feel like there was some emotion that was coming up when you're feeling those things?
Yeah, for sure.
When you connect with that, like if you actually connect with how you grew up with that feeling and that fear of happening to you as a little girl, if you think back to even just seeing little Sarah and seeing her as like a precious little girl that had to deal with that all growing up, that she didn't have anybody that understood it. Even she didn't understand what was happening to her. Like, how do you feel actually thinking about that little girl?
There's a lot of fear and like loneliness attached to it.
Yeah. And with that loneliness, I'm assuming that there's just a lot of sadness that's connected to that too. Like when I heard you say those things, I just felt sad. And I know a lot of people on the call just felt sad too. And it's sad that you've had to go through that. It's sad that that's been something that's been in your world. It's awful, and there's a huge pain of loneliness that's attached to that thought that this is going to happen to you, this could happen to you, this could happen to you, God could bring this into your life, and it's all for his glory. And it's Christian language that makes us feel trapped inside of that experience too.
Yeah.
Do you mind closing your eyes for a moment? If you connect with just some of that loneliness and some of that fear, just for a moment, I know it's painful, but I just want you to get present with some of those things inside of your heart. And if you could just kind of just explain to me what's going on, like how are you feeling? Like what does that feel like?
I feel like because I just see myself as like a little girl sitting alone, like in darkness. As I feel like I grew up in a really emotionless, painful like marriage and stuff, and so like that's all I remember, and I'm so used to just observing that pain and watching it from the outside with no way to process it or even like feel joy in the midst of like any of that. And so yeah, I just feel a lot of darkness.
And how old do you feel? You mentioned you feel like a little girl. Like how old would you say you feel?
Like 5.
Like 5. Yeah. Are there do you have any younger nieces or any like anybody in your family or any friends, kids that are younger that you do life with at all?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Like who are those people?
I have some young nieces, and I work at a school as well. So I'm with a lot of kids.
Okay. And are there any that are around that age, 4, 5, 6, 7, that you feel like any type of connection with?
Yeah.
And who's that?
It's my cousin's daughter, I think niece.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm not sure what that is.
I'm not either. I don't.
That's cool with me.
And
Yeah, twice removed. um, that's great. Well, I want you to see, like, just with your eyes closed, I want you to see that little girl going through that same pain, and just if you can see her feeling that same experience of loneliness. If she was alone and she just shared all that with you, what would you share with her? What would you say to her?
I would say to her, like, I'm so sorry you feel that way, but you are so beautiful and you actually have so much going for you. Even though you feel like there's a lot of pain and it's easier to focus on that, you do have a lot of love in your life, and you do have a lot of good things, and you are secure too, even if what you feel right now is just insecurity and instability.
That's so good. I want you to see little Sarah. If there was a common space that she went to and she felt alone, I want you to actually see her there. And let me know when you feel like you can connect with that.
Like a space that I'd go when I was lonely.
Yeah, just wherever you feel like you can connect with her being in that pain. When you look at that little girl, what are you feeling?
Like, I know it sounds really cliche, but I feel like I feel her being held by God, just like wrapped in his arms.
Yeah. She feels safe to just be in some of that pain with him.
Hmm. Like it's okay to be vulnerable in that space.
I actually want to talk to you, younger Sarah, for a second. I want to talk to that little girl. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And she can stay hugging God, and she can stay hanging out with the Father. And anybody else too that's resonating with some of that pain too, like you can just let your heart go to a space as well. But little Sarah, I'm so sorry that you've been in pain. I'm so sorry you felt so alone in that pain. I can imagine you felt misunderstood by the people around you. I can imagine you feel so powerless too, that this is just the way that it is. And little Sarah, since you're already connecting with the Father, I want you just to ask him, Father,
Father,
when I'm feeling this,
when I'm feeling this,
how do you feel about me?
how do you feel about me?
And let me know whatever you hear, see, or sense.
The first thing that I heard right away was like, he was smiling and he was like, you have no idea what I have in store for you. But it was like not a fearful thing, it was full of hope. He was excited to give those things to me.
I want you to say, Dad.
Dad,
I'm scared you have bad things for me sometimes.
I'm scared you have bad things for me sometimes.
What types of things do you have in store for me in my life?
What types of things do you have in store for me in my life?
Let me know if you hear, see, or sense anything from him.
He said, I heard him say good things and love, and that I felt him say that I wouldn't let you go through this much hard work just to leave you in the same place that you were in growing up.
And how does that impact your heart hearing that from him?
It feels good, but there's like that part where it's hard to believe too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Why don't you just say, God, it feels hard to believe this.
God, it feels hard to believe this.
How do you feel about me when I'm in disbelief?
How do you feel about me when I'm in disbelief?
Just let me know what you hear, see, or sense from him.
He said, I can't wait to show you who I really am.
It sounds like there's pretty much no pressure on you to have to do much about it. Sounds like he just wants to reveal himself to you. You know, what's coming is you're going to be working through some next steps and the next content. And if you've already found that much clarity in this process, you'll find that God wants to actually meet you in the space of pain and have you connect with his love before anything. You know, and so many times as Christians, we rush to try and fix things before we experience or encounter his love. And that's actually not the way that he made it, it's the way we make it. He actually wants to love us in the midst of the process. He wants to do life with us in the midst of it. And it sounds like he's already doing that with you. One of the things I think would be beautiful is to stay connected to that little girl, because it sounds like she's the one that really wants to have a safe space to grow up and develop in this process. And I think you've done a great job of protecting her for a long time, but she wants to grow up in some other ways.
And practically too, like when we can identify a belief or something that's coming up in our process and then get connected to how old do I feel? Like, when did I start believing this the very first time? How old do I feel whenever I think about that? Or maybe you remember a specific memory of something happening when you were 3, 4, or 5. Whenever you can identify that age, that lets you know the part of your heart that needs the most love and compassion. So it's like your key. And so practically what that looks like for me, if I have something that comes up, I will spend time, if I'm recognizing a wound or I have a fear that's influencing my life or my belief, I'll be really, really proactive. Like when we have stuff that comes up, you guys, we're like our foot is on the gas pedal and we floor it and we go after that stuff. So maybe like 2, 3, 4 times a day, I'll close my eyes. I'll picture and connect with little Sammy, whatever age she needs it the most. And I'll just spend time loving her. I'll picture her playing or me sitting next to her. I'll try to figure out like, Sammy, how do you feel right now? Where are you at? What do you need from me right now? And I've had times where little Sammy's hiding under the bed and won't come out and talk to me because she's so afraid. She's like just stuck in her pain and trauma. And so I'll just sit there. And like for me, in my rational brain, I'm like, I'm an adult child, like I'm fine. I don't feel like that little vulnerable girl right now. But I'll get connected to her and I'll recognize like this is a part of my heart that had its growth stunted because of pain. And so I'm going to make space for her. And I might say things like, Sammy, you can come out whenever you're ready. I'm not going to pressure you. I'm not going to rush you. I'm not going to try to fix you. I'm just going to be here to love you. And I'm sorry that you didn't get what you needed. I'm sorry that people weren't there for you. So spend time like nurturing that little girl.
You're doing such a good job. You just started. It's going to be so good.
Thank you guys so much. It means a lot.
Yeah.
We love you, girl.
Thanks for trusting us in this process.
It was scary, but I feel good.
I know.
You're like,
I know.
Check. I did it. You're brave.
You're brave.
Thanks for sharing, hun.
And two, I just want to say this for anybody that is feeling like that's childish or there's any resistance to feeling compassion towards younger you, or there's like, if there's any like even if there's like a that's weird or that's stupid or like I have no judgments for you whatsoever at all whatsoever. But I do want to say that if that's the case, the odds are you've probably had logical older you been protecting yourself and been in self-sufficiency for a long time. Mm-hmm. You've probably been in a space where you've had to grow up at a really young age, and younger you has never gotten a chance to grow up, and so she doesn't feel safe. Because what I can promise you, like in my process, in my journey too, that's how I felt. Felt woo-woo, it felt stupid. And as a man too, there's even more pride that's built on top of the way that we have to function and perform in life. That if I look at, loving little chubby Spencer, like that's what I need to do, that's weird and stupid. But the truth is that nothing else worked. And so I was fed up doing what I had done before, and I needed something to change. And I also didn't want to drastically affect my future children and my future wife with the way that I was hurting myself and the pressure I was putting on myself. And so if that's you at all, I give you, like, I actually encourage you, like, to lean in and start to understand where you've failed to protect that child, where you've actually done a good job to help yourself survive, to help yourself, like, not die and survive different really crazy circumstances in your life, but also where you've missed out on love and tenderness and compassion and the beauty of life because of those things.
And when it comes down to it too, like it's a counseling term, it's just a really practical way we've learned to do it. It's called reparenting. Like by connecting with little you're literally stepping outside of time and space, and you're creating a space with God where you can see actual redemption happen. But the clinical term for it is reparenting. And I didn't even know the counseling side and the psychological side of it when God started teaching me to do that. I had there's all these things that I've learned that I'm like, this isn't a counseling book. Like, I cannot believe that God did that for me like 10 years ago, and I had no idea what was happening. And I was like, okay, let's go. You know, so for any of you who feels like that feels scary or woo-woo and you feel resistance, just know like you're just doing reparenting in a practical way. And also, there's going to be resistance against any kind of healing and breakthrough you're going to find for the most part. So if you keep feeling like, I'll even go to get my time with Jesus in the morning, and I always start with just breathing because of all the amazing benefits of breathing. I don't even want to sit and breathe. I feel resistance to like doing actual just like deep breaths. I'm just like, no, I just want to sit here and zone out. I feel resistance to breathing, you guys. And then I'm like, no, I need to push through.
Yeah.
So just know, like, if you feel resistance, it's okay. It's normal. It's natural. There's going to be opposition to you getting healthier, finding freedom, and getting more connected to yourself in Jesus.
Resistance only becomes powerless when you start to be really hard on yourself because of resistance. But if you see resistance for what it is, it's just something. It's just a circumstance. It's a block. It's something. But when you go, I am to blame for this resistance, like, how could I be doing this? Or like you go into powerless monster. Or being
a victim to it. Like giving in to that resistance thing, which I do it too. So don't stack shame if you just always give in to resistance. Don't stack shame. It's not going to help you. But like giving into it is you being a victim to it too. It's letting your life run you.
Yeah.
Instead of deciding like in this moment, even though I'm feeling resistance, I'm going to choose this anyways so that I can taste the fruit of it. I want what's going to happen on the other side of this moment. So I'm just going to show up anyways. I can't tell you. It's why I'm at where I'm at today with everything. If I would have listened to resistance, you guys, Alive and Free would not exist at all. Like not at all. I wouldn't have even worked with one client because I felt resistance before I even started doing one-on-one sessions. And then like scaling it and trying to reach more women and trying to create it in a way where I could empower women. Holy shit, you guys. I couldn't even write a sentence down when I started to write out the course. One sentence after I had been on 7 years of process. It was normal. I talked about it all day, every day. And I couldn't even formulate words to put into a course. So just know like everything that I'm living in today, the fruit of my life, is because I pressed through resistance.
If there are random emails you've gotten that sound like Spencer trying to sound like Sammy, that's why.
It's Spencer.
There may have been a few here or there. So like just for, how many of you guys was that actually valuable, just some of that we were walking through with Sarah?
Good.
The point is that this stuff engages you in going like, oh, like that's how you could do something like this. Like that's how. Like, oh, this is how. It's to take the process and give you how.
I want to hit on something. I got a message like a month ago and I didn't see it. If you guys message me and you don't hear back from me, so sorry.
I think she gets on average 200 messages a day at this point.
So just know that it's never anything purposeful. And if you see that I read it and I didn't respond, also nothing personal. Sometimes someone else opens a message for me on accident. Sometimes I read it, space out, have something to do, and I never think of it again. So be gracious with me. But I got a message like a month and a half ago and responded to it last night thinking, oh, she just messaged me. I'm messaging back. I'm so quick. I checked the date. It's like February 17th. But she was in a lot of pain. She's a girl in here. I'm not going to blast her. But she's a girl that was in a lot of pain. And she's like, I feel like I need so much help. Can I do a one-on-one session? My pain is so high stakes right now. The group doesn't feel safe. It feels scary to share. It feels scary to let out my trauma.
And that makes sense.
It's totally normal, especially if you haven't had a background of talking about your stuff or have a background of having safe community, which most of us have never had before. Let me tell you, it's normal to feel like that. And I just kind of want to hit on, like, I want us to kind of talk about our normal dialogue with the difference between like one-on-one and this, but how to cultivate this, like feeling safe and going after vulnerability anyways.
Well, what I can tell you too is like, what's even more painful than that fear of, exposure in a group setting is being with the person that you've placed all of your safety in a one-on-one, and having them completely dismiss or invalidate something that you've brought up too. And it's like there's pain pretty much everywhere you go with your pain, is what I'm trying to communicate. Is like there's kind of no way out of it in the process. There's mustering up about as much bravery and courage as you can muster up, and then confronting what's available. And that's why we've wanted to give access to resource in all these capacities, so it can be like, I feel safe enough to do this thing. I feel safe enough to walk myself through this. I'm gonna actually muster up courage to step into this place here. I'm gonna step into
posting a video for the first time in the group. If
that's going to a coaching call with Heather on the daily calls. If that's showing up here and listening to other people share all their vulnerability, and then being like, okay, I can do it. If that's reaching out to another woman in the group and saying like, hey, I've noticed that you posted a few times, and there's a lot of pieces that I resonate with, and I'd love to know if you would just be willing to have a quick conversation with me.
Sometimes our pain feels so high stakes because it's attached to this belief that we're never going to get out of it, that my needs are never going to be met, that no one's ever going to see me. It's attached, like our pain is attached to these overarching beliefs that make it feel so high stakes. When the reality is like, this pain is valid. It makes so much sense that you'd feel like that. This is rooted in something big, and we need to pay attention to it, but it's being exacerbated because of that powerlessness that's attached to it. But what I'm trying to communicate is, a lot of the times, if we have a lot of pain, but we get to be seen and known by someone and have a safe space where someone can hear us, see us, validate us, just let us know that we're not crazy for feeling like that, our pain goes from like a 20 out of 10 down to like a 2 out of 10. You're like, oh my gosh, because our core need, we don't have a core need to be out of pain. We have a core need to be seen. We have a core need to be known. We have a core need for love. We don't have a core need to be pain-free, because we were not created to be pain-free. We're in a broken world. But your biggest need is to be seen, to be known, to be heard. So my encouragement to you guys is, when you have 20 out of 10 pain, which I get it, I have been there. I have been there so many times. Recognize, if I can just have someone that's safe, if I could pull someone from this community, it doesn't have to be Sam and Spence. It doesn't even have to be Heather. It doesn't have to be someone who's even working from Alive and Free. If I can talk to someone who can just hear me out and be a source of love, it's going to make my pain that's way up here go down to here. But tying it back into what Spence says, choose like one thing that feels like an act of courage for you. If that act of courage is just sending someone a private message and reaching out and asking if you can have a little bit of their time, do it. If it's showing up on a call and not saying anything, do it. If it's asking a question for the first time, do it. But realize, what I need more than anything is to be seen, known, and loved right now. Then you have tons of resources. You've got like 400 people who I'm sure would love to be a source of love for you. So it's an easy fix. That's all I'm gonna say, and then we can move forward.
Does it get really dependent? It does if you put all of that weight on one person. Yeah, it does if you put all that weight on one person, and it does if your expectation is on that person not to feel you.
If you need them to be something for you, so much so that, what am I trying to say? let me rephrase this. Say, for example, I have tons of pain and I'm putting my dependency on Spence to see me, to know me, and to be my source of love. I have to hold loosely him being able to meet that need. So if I come with my pain and then have an expectation over him to fill that and meet those needs, it's going to end in disappointment, whether it's in that moment or down the line when he eventually fails me. But if I can come and say, here's a need that I have, but I'm going to take responsibility for this need, and I'm just going to see if you can be a source, just a source of love, just a source of connection, just a person who can see me. And if you can give me love, then that's awesome. And if you can't, I'm going to be okay and I'm going to go somewhere else. It's holding things lightly, and it's removing expectation. That's whenever going to God is really awesome, but also it's really, really healthy to be able to have community that you can lean on in moments. It is. It's tricky. It's so tricky. Let me just validate that. Holy crap. Especially when you're married. Especially when you're married. It's so tempting. It's so tempting with anyone great to take over your God spot. Anyone who feels safe, loving, kind, who sees you. Like, that's why it's going to be super easy for me and Spence to go into y'all's God spot. Because you're like, oh, finally someone who gets it. Finally someone who can put language to things. Finally someone who can love me and see me and connect me to God. So automatically, it's going to be a part of most of y'all's process, removing us from your God spot in different ways. And that's a normal part of the process, and it's okay.
And it's been our process removing ourselves from your God spot too.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Feeling like,
oh, where did all that growth come from? It's like, now we're really going to fail them. Like, okay.
or
And then we have to like position ourselves and go, okay, we're going to give them back to you, God.
feeling like we, like this energy of like, we need to give them as much as we can. We want to satisfy them. We want to be able to meet all their expectations. We feel that energy to want to stay in your God spot. Sorry, puppy. My dog.
She was like ninja.
So it is. It's really hard, and
Light sleeper.
it's a dance. Like in marriage, this process is so pivotal for marriage too, because our biggest dance the last 2 years, and I'm sure it will continue, is how to remove each other out of our God spots and bring God in it, so that we can be a gift to each other. So that I don't need anything from Spence, but that what he does give is just an added gift to my life.
And there's still a vulnerability in that you're exposing needs to people in interdependence. So what's unhealthy is independence and codependency, right? Independency is isolation. Codependency is I need you to be okay. Interdependence is I don't need you to be okay, but I'm going to, in vulnerability, share things with you that I'm going to allow you and invite you into a space that's tender to meet a need. And if you're not able to, it might hurt for a moment, but ultimately it's not going to be a statement of me being rejectable. It's not going to be a statement about me. It's actually going to be you making a statement about what you're able to do and not able to do.
That was wordy, but really
It was
good.
wordy.
It's just complex. It's all very, very accurate, but it's very complex. So don't worry if you didn't absorb that.
Yeah. And if a lot of you guys are in your week 1, take your time. Like week 1, week 2.
Sarah's like, yeah,
you know,
F you.
I think I even saw like Jolene had posted something about like the talking to younger you feeling a little bit scary. That makes sense. And it, you know, a lot of this stuff's going to feel weird. Matthew 18:3 says, you will by no means inherit the kingdom unless you become converted like a little child. And one of the things that we've experienced is that we actually have to become children in order to experience love in the places that we've forced ourselves to grow up in and not actually gotten to develop in. You know, so there's a part of us that needs safety to be able to get healing in different areas. You know, it's like if I experienced something really painful at 5 years old, and then I just grabbed hold of a belief system at that moment to protect myself the rest of my life so I never felt that pain again. Well, it's going to be really hard if that really saved me from traumatic moments, that belief system. It's going to be hard to connect with 5-year-old Spencer, because I'm going to feel like, no, that belief system, I'm not letting go of it. It saved me. It's been my protector, and I'm good. I don't need this. I don't need you. And I don't need like anybody to touch this. You know, so it's going to be scary. We're not going to want to touch things like that. But the more that we feel safe and we start to see there's a love I'm missing out on, there's something I'm missing out of in the life and life abundance that God promised, the more we're going to be willing to address those things. And layer by layer, we're going to get to those places where we can work through them.
Okay. What I'd love to do, because I know a lot of you threw in questions, and I'm sure a lot of your questions got answered. I hope a lot of them did. I would like for you guys, if we haven't gotten to or given you something good and relevant to your question, would you repost? You don't have to go and copy and repaste that question, but if you feel like you still have a question, rethrow it in. And if you got some of your things addressed, like I saw a ton of themes, like connection with God and that translating to our relationship with our parents, and a lot of self-hatred and getting back to like the same, that voice of our inner critic. And we hit on a lot of that stuff. Yeah, go to the bottom. I got a lot of stuff. Good. Yay. Mickey said, I posted a question about forgiveness with an ex-friend. How to let go. Wait.
Whoa.
Sorry. When they come scrolling in, sometimes I get kind of dizzy because they all start moving really fast.
Okay, you scroll really hard.
Do you know that if you don't get thrown up in the air when you're a little kid, like played with, your equilibrium doesn't actually have an opportunity to like fully develop? So you'll have a tendency when you get older to like get seasick and dizzy and have what problems? Let's call it problems. Isn't that crazy? And people that have problems, you know, the people that they'll just get dizzy out of nowhere without even moving. Does anyone know what that's called?
Vertigo?
Vertigo. Do you have vertigo, Kristen? So what I've heard, and I could be wrong, but what I've heard is like there are specific ear doctors that if you have a lot of vertigo, what they'll do is they'll lay you down and they'll turn your head a bunch of different angles, because there are crystals in your ear. In your inner ear, there are all these little crystals that if they're out of alignment, you start getting dizzy.
Vestibular rehab. Gwen, you're too smart.
You are too smart. So isn't that crazy? You have crystals in your ear that if they're out of alignment, you start getting dizzy. How weird is God? And if you're a little kid and you get thrown around a lot, it's actually good for you because those crystals get opportunities to like actually be put in the right places. So then you have stability for the rest of your life. How weird is God? Fun fact.
So Mickey had a question about forgiveness with an ex-friend.
Cool.
Does anybody deal with struggling with forgiveness? Anybody?
I don't struggle with that. Portia's like, no,
There's only like 4 of us that deal
never. I'm
with struggling.
perfect. We're all perfect. We don't have problems.
That's cool. Mickey, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. So walk me through. Oh, first off, where are you at in the program so far?
I'm on week 4.
Nice. That's cool. So what's going on with your forgiveness and your friend? Like, what's the situation?
Yeah, so it's a pretty long story, so I'll just kind of summarize. I used to live with this girl, and we lived in a house with 5 other girls. And she came from another country, and I just am a person super easygoing. I like everyone, but she had hurt me like chronically, and it was pretty consistently, and then she never saw an issue with the fact that she was hurting me. And so I have a tendency to kind of hold on to things when I feel like I can't protect my heart any other way, because forgiveness usually can come. It's simple for me, but then when someone constantly is doing it, and then it's like something I can't prepare for, like they're coming at me with something that I'm like, whoa, like I have no idea why you're getting so upset with me. I'm like, I shut down. Yeah. And so this girl's still doing stuff. And so that's why it's kind of hard for me to let it go. And then she's living with my best friend, and I don't want her influencing my best friend's thinking. And it's a lot. Does that make sense? I try not to make it cryptic, but
that makes sense.
Can I rephrase it so I make sure I understand? Or do you want to? Do you fully understand?
Go for it.
Okay, so you have a friend who lived with you before?
Yeah.
And she kept doing things that were painful for you. And
Yes.
normally you're the kind of person that you're just like, okay, I can get over this and I'll release you from this. But for her, she keeps doing it and she's still tied into your life and you've got a lot of pain. And so now you're just kind of like, I don't even know what to do because now I have tons of pain towards you. I don't know how to forgive you and you're intertwined into my life. And so now I'm just kind of pissed off.
Exactly.
Good.
I'm curious, like, are you scared of something happening if you do let go of that pain, what she's done?
Yeah, there's a lot of fear around it for sure.
Like what?
What are you scared of happening if you let her off the hook?
Because this is a community thing and their house is a community, my best friend, like two of my best friends actually live in that house, and I just am afraid they're gonna like be influenced by her thinking, and then I'm gonna lose them. And instead of like separating, hey, you know, I don't have to hang out with everyone that my best friend hangs out with, I'm afraid that they're gonna, yeah, think that she's right, even though I've not done anything that could have given them cause to think she's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and if they were to listen to the things that she says that are bad, like in a worst case scenario, what would that say about you?
Sorry, can you say that again? I didn't hear you.
So if people listen to her
Mhm.
and they draw conclusions about you based on what she's saying and telling them, like the worst case scenario that you can imagine, what's scary about that? What feels
She has a presence like she's super domineering. She's a leadership gift, and I do too. So that's kind of where I clash with her. So I'm scared that that's just because I've invested a lot of myself into these girls, and they actually were in my God spot for a while.
Yeah.
So I mean, one of them still kind of is, but
Yeah.
to be honest. So I'm just afraid that collectively this is gonna, you know, I'm gonna be, I don't know, I'm gonna have to be in pain, if that makes sense. I'm trying to avoid pain.
What's
Yeah,
the worst
that's
case scenario of how your friends would view you if they did listen to her? Like, what are you afraid of them thinking about you?
That I'm a bad person and I'm not worthy of being a good friend and I wasn't enough for them.
Yeah.
So
That's
Makes
painful.
sense.
That makes sense. And just with that statement that I'm a bad person, like I'm a bad person, I'm not a good friend, I'm not good.
mhm.
Actually, if you can close your eyes for a moment.
Okay.
I just want you to hear that statement again. I'm not a good person. That I'm not a good leader, I'm not a good friend, I'm not good. I'm not a good girl. Whose voice does that sound like most in your life?
My mom.
Yeah. Is that something that she would actually tell you, or did it sound different the way in which she told you that?
She would say that I was bad and that I grew up to be alone, and she would say things like that when she was upset.
Mm.
So I hear a very upset mom. So
That's awful.
yeah.
Like when you say that out loud, like that makes me feel sad. How old were you when she would say things like that to you?
I was 12.
Mm-hmm. You
So,
think 12-year-old Mickey deserved that?
well, presently, my heart says yes, but my mind is saying no.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So
Mm-hmm. And why do you feel like 12-year-old Mickey deserved that?
because I feel like I betrayed my mom, and she just had done a lot of things that she did the best she could, but she did a lot of things to really hurt my mom. So
Like what kinds of things?
just being angry, yelling at her. When I was younger, I used to steal quite a bit from my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Just not being perfect. My family members, all my siblings went to Ivy League schools and I didn't. So just kind of being the black sheep and not being the daughter that I feel like she wanted. So
Wow. That's a lot of pressure. Do you think 12-year-old Mickey was doing the best she knew how, given that her siblings were all high performers. There was an expectation of high performance, that there were these standards that she felt like she couldn't meet in her life, that no matter what she did, she wouldn't be enough for her family or her parents. Do you think she was still doing the best that she knew how in that?
No, but I feel like that's not the truth. So somehow I'm conflicted in that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Makes
So
total. Yeah. That statement you said, that you're the black sheep in the family and that you're the odd one out. When was the first time you started feeling that way?
I was actually go back further. I was 8 years old.
And what memory comes to mind?
Being able to, my parents are divorced, so whenever I go to my dad's house, like being able to get along with them, and they were the also stigma in our family. So when I was associated with them, I felt like I couldn't live up to the standards my mom had for me, because my other siblings were like my mom, and I was a lot like my dad.
Mm.
So because I was like my dad, I was not good enough, and our whole family would really gossip about my dad. They were hurt by him quite a bit. So there's that fear that I'm going to turn into my dad and I'm not going to be able to be loved by my mom. So.
And were you a bad kid and stealing things then?
Yes. I was, like, since kindergarten, I was hurtful. I actually was sent home because I was hurting other kids. I was pushing them. There's a lot of anger that I've had
Yeah.
for a long time. So.
What were you angry about?
Not being heard, being misunderstood. And I also felt like, I wasn't a good friend, because even at 5 years old, I was trying to recruit friends because I felt like I didn't have anyone. I felt alone. So I was angry that I was alone. A lot of my anger or a lot of my fears come out as anger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why do you think that little 4-year-old Mickey was angry and felt misunderstood? What happened that she felt that way?
Oh my goodness, there's a couple of things. I would say the main thing would be when my dad invited this person into our lives that he left my mom for. We had such a tumultuous environment. I wasn't allowed to say or do anything that would upset my family, like both parents, actually both sets of my parents. And if I wasn't heard enough, and even if I would throw things, or I was hurting my younger sister or something, I would hide. And so it was just, I felt like my hands were always tied, could never do anything. I was powerless. So I reacted.
That makes sense. Did you feel very unseen?
Yes.
And what other things did you feel?
Not worthy.
Of what?
Not worthy of love and respect, and that my needs weren't important.
So that's pretty painful to feel those things as a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, you feel like you got those needs met by mom and dad growing up?
No.
Okay. Because what it sounds like to me is that you've been a real jerk to Mickey.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've seen 4 and 5-year-old and 12-year-old and older Mickey as a fuck up and a mess up and someone that deserves shame and judgment. And you agreed with those voices of accusation from adults and kids. And you know what I'm hearing in your story is none of that. For myself, I don't have any judgments towards little Mickey, and I don't feel like she's a bad kid at all. I feel really sad that she was in a home where she couldn't get any of her needs met as a 4-year-old. I feel sad that her dad played a huge part in massive betrayal in your home. I feel sad that your family made you out to be just like him and put you in this space that they felt scared of. as a little tiny girl that couldn't do anything for herself. They placed you in this spot where they were scared of you and made you a villain at a young age. I think that's so sad to hear that for me. And for me, I wish that someone was there to stand up for you, to give you a voice, to tell you that your heart mattered. I would want to tell that little girl that she matters, that she's actually worth playing with, that she's worth having friends, she's worth having parents that give a shit about her, that she actually matters, that she's not a bad kid, she just needs things that nobody can give her. And the whole time you've agreed with your parents, you've agreed with your family, you've agreed with these people, and you've allowed them to dictate if you're a good or a bad person. And it's wrong. Can you connect with any of that?
I see this picture of you like standing in this huge place where there's just a ton of mud, and your family was like trudging through the mud all around you, and you're in the center and mud keeps splashing up on you, and you're like stomping and having a fit because you're like, I'm trying to get clean, I'm trying to get clean, I'm trying to get clean. And I feel like you've been taking off and been trying to take off that word bad off of you since you were a little kid, and everyone else put it on you. And it was so painful that you literally just started kicking the mud, which equals you being bad. And you just got more mud all over you and more mud all over you. And everyone's passing by you and not even looking at you. And I feel like you've been fighting to take that word off of you ever since.
I see you as like, I want to tell that girl how bad she is so that nobody else can. I have to do it first so that when other people do, it doesn't hurt as bad. And so if I can hate her first, then I can do better. And then they won't get mad at me and they won't call me bad because I told her first. And so if I can tell her she's bad, then nobody else is going to tell her she's bad. And in turn, that little 4-year-old feels trapped in a prison of your hate. Every time that somebody says that you're bad or creates that scenario, you just agree with them.
Nikki, I want you to see that little girl in front of you standing in the mud. And I want you to walk up to her and grab her hand. And I want you to walk with her, and I want you to lead her out of the mud. And you're going to stand with Jesus in your safe space, wherever that is. And I want you to see yourself just taking off all of those muddy clothes off of her. And Jesus hands you a rag. And you and Jesus start wiping the mud off of her face, off of her arms, off of her legs. Just clean her up. Take time. Don't rush it. And as soon as she's clean, I want you to take her and put her right next to Jesus. Whether it's in his lap or in his arms or standing next to him. And I want you to ask him, Jesus, who am I?
Jesus, who am I?
Let me see.
He says I'm a daughter of a king.
Mm.
And I'm a princess.
What does that do for your heart to hear that?
I don't know. I can't put words to it.
Okay. I want you to ask him now, how do you see me?
How do you see me? He had invited me into a hug and he said he loves me.
Mm.
And I'm so loved. And he just keeps saying it.
Mm. I want you to just take in that moment. Take in those words. Mickey, you are so good. You're so good. You're such a good girl. You've done such a good job. You're such a good person.
And I want you to see older Mickey walking in, okay? And older Mickey, when you walk in, let me know when you can see that little girl with Jesus.
I can see her.
Mm, You mind if I walk you through apologizing to that little girl?
Or no. I don't mind.
I want you to look at that little girl, and I just want you to repeat after me, okay? Precious little Mickey,
Precious little Mickey.
I've been an asshole to you.
I've been an asshole to you.
I've made you out to be the villain.
I've made you out to be the villain.
I agreed with your parents,
I agreed with your parents.
and I've been so mean to you.
And I've been so mean to you.
For too long, I've told you that you're bad.
For too long, I told you that you were bad.
I've told you that you're worthless.
I told you that you're worthless.
I blamed you for problems.
I blamed you for problems.
Little Mickey,
Little Mickey,
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Little Mickey, will you forgive me?
Little Mickey, will you forgive me?
And let me know what you hear back.
She nodded yes.
And I want you to ask her, little Mickey,
Little Mickey,
what else do you need from me?
what else do you need from me?
And I want you to listen to her closely.
She wants more time with me.
I think she's been in desperate need for friendship for a while now. Why don't you just say, little Mickey,
Little Mickey,
I'm definitely going to fail,
I'm definitely gonna fail,
but I'm going to learn to be a friend to you.
but I'm gonna learn to be a friend to you.
And then just give her a big hug. And whenever you're ready, you just go and open your eyes.
Wow.
How you feeling?
I don't know.
I'm just asking about forgiveness.
Wow. I don't have any words. Sorry.
Sorry. That's the door to freedom right there.
It's joy. I don't know. It's weird.
Oh, good.
Wow.
Well, it sounds like your friends were agreeing with your own self-hatred and that voice of accusation that you've learned to make your own for a long time. And it sounds like you've given that voice way too much permission to have root in your life, to make statements about your value and your worth. And the moment that people trigger that same statement that you're making internally, it brings all your pain to the surface. And the only thing that you can look at doing is trying to find out where I need to make my target. And it looks like it's your friend, but it's actually just your own internal voice that's there.
It's like, how do I, if it's exposing what's already there, which is that belief that I'm bad. So what do I do to make myself not be bad? Where do I need to go? How do I need to fix things so that I'm not bad?
Yeah.
And recognize, even when he started taking you into that moment, I was like, no, dude, like just some practical, I was thinking just practical advice. Like talk to your friends, like tell them, like let them know how you feel, let them know what you're afraid of. And then I was like, yeah, I forget like pretty much everything in my life and in our life and y'all's lives, it's rooted in something. And it lets you know, like when you can get to the root, you're like, God, I didn't realize this was influencing all these little things in my life.
Right.
You know, so when you can tackle that belief, like you just started changing a core belief, right? So now that you are tackling that belief, you can come into a relationship differently now. Like someone else threw in the chat box, like, well, what if I have a fear of bad things happening to me and then bad things actually happen and it feels like it's proof that bad things will happen? Well, a lot of the times our beliefs will turn out to be true. And your brain is looking for reasons why it's true. And we end up fulfilling these prophecies we speak over ourselves because we're like a magnet for the things that we believe.
Like
Mhm.
even, like, yeah. And like even Paul was able to say, like, he was able to talk about rejoicing and peace and joy. And like he wrote Philippians, which was mostly about joy in prison. Like he was in prison. If you guys read Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, he was talking about how thankfulness was the only way people survived Auschwitz and the Holocaust. You know, it's like people that didn't have hope were the ones that died early. And it's crazy. It's our circumstances. We will look at that for evidence for what we believe no matter what.
Yeah. But if we can too, like, and we don't want to band-aid the belief. What we're not saying is like shove the belief and choose joy, choose hope, choose gratitude. We want to identify that belief and heal the root of it, because then in a moment when it's healed, you might start feeling like, oh no, I'm bad, or I'm afraid they're thinking I'm bad. But now you have a moment and an anchor point to go back to of like, oh yeah, it's going to be a tendency for me to want to go into that belief that I'm bad and then look for proof. But I'm actually going to anchor myself back in that I'm good. And if you can settle that, if you even start speaking that over yourself, now what we've called like a Band-Aid, like a declaration, now it's good. Now it's not a Band-Aid anymore because we're not covering up this root pain. We're adding something to this work that was done in us. So now if every day you spend time saying to yourself, Mickey, I'm so good. You're so good. You're good. Who you are is good. You have a good heart. You have purity in you. You have good intentions. I'm so proud of you. Like speaking those things to combat your 20 years of pain, of believing that you're bad. Now it's powerful. And now you're a magnet. Like what you'll do if you start having this belief that you're good is it will start manifesting in your friendships. Your friends will start looking for reasons why you're good. And you'll start seeing reasons why you're good. And then you'll have proof to back up your belief system.
Everybody thinks that Jesus was just a pushover, but he talked back to the Pharisees all the time and defended people that they were accusing. He was always standing up between people and the accuser, always. And he did not care about making the Pharisees feel bad. He didn't care about it because his intention was disarming the voice of accusation over everybody. The woman caught in adultery, disarming accusation over her. And then in that place where there's no accusation for her whatsoever, empowering her not to sin. We get so backwards, and we bring in this Pharisaical approach into our lives that we learn in certain forms of Christianity. We go, if I just hate myself enough, I'll do better. And we don't even know that we're hating ourselves. We just think, oh no, this is a familiar voice. And so I don't even know it, but that's going into the way I read the Bible. It's going into the way that I see God. It's going into my prayer life. It's going into the way that I do ministry even. You know, it's like, and it goes in every fabric of the way that we do life. And it's like Jesus was always standing up for people that were accused. Like always. And so even if it's you, we need to, like that little girl that you've been mean to for a long time, that girl's like, even though you've been so mean to her, she wants connection with you.
So sad.
That little girl's sitting there begging for connection with you because you left her in the dust.
Yeah.
But it should feel freeing to feel like this is a relationship I can build, and all of a sudden this is what joy feels like, to be connected.
Yeah.
God wants us to become little children because little children are like this. And he's like, oh, I can work with that. Here's my joy. Here's my peace. Here's like all this stuff, because we're just like, okay.
Wow.
Your face says it all. It's
Yeah.
Sorry.
sorry. Why are you apologizing for your joy and your freedom
Do
right
not
now?
apologize for your joy or your peace to anybody.
Okay.
Why are you apologizing for that?
It's a habit.
You're serving everybody like a platter of joy by you being you and releasing it. Don't feel shame for that. It's good.
You being fully you gives other people permission to be fully them. You guys came here because Sammy and I are walking more and more every day in who we are.
We're just being ourselves.
That's it.
That's like that's what you guys liked when you saw anything, is that regardless of if we're your style or not, or if you like what we're saying or not, or if it resonates or not, you're like, the truth is, when it comes down to it, you guys like that we're being ourselves. We're being authenticity, just showing up as you are, is so freaking beautiful. Even if it's weird, messy, awkward, not your style, it's just attractive. So be you. That's all.
Yeah.
Let it out.
Okay. Sounds good.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for being vulnerable like that too, and bearing your heart like that. It's a treasure that you did that. So thank you for trusting us.
My last practical thing that I'll say for everyone, if you read, because we've all been in weird situations where we're afraid of being misunderstood, or we're like, do I address this? Do I not? I'm afraid of this. Like, do I say something? We always err on the side of communication. So if I were in your specific situation, Mickey, and I had two friends that I really cared about, and I wanted them to, and I was afraid of them viewing me poorly or whatever, I'd probably sit with them, let them know the whole situation without accusation, without making her the villain, and just say, hey, I just wanted to talk to you guys and let you guys into this because I felt afraid. Like, I felt afraid that I'm going to get bad-mouthed and that I'm going to lose my friends. And maybe it has nothing to do with you guys. I'm learning that I've just felt like I was bad my whole life. I was always losing friends in my childhood because of what I went through. So it feels scary what's happening, because it reminds me of the history, and my theme throughout my life was that I'm bad and people are going to be against me. You know, so even letting them in, like, that's an invitation into intimacy and into you being known. And it creates a space where they can show you understanding and get things from your perspective. So that's my practical.
Yeah.
I like that.
Awesome.
Love
Cool.
you, girl.
Yeah.
Thanks. Love you guys.
Love you too. I like 4-year-old Mickey, by the way. I think she's great.
She's so
and,
cute.
And 12-year-old.
Aw, they like you too.
I was bad when I was
Any-
little, you guys.
Yeah.
I
think
bit little boys. I pushed girls out of their desk. I
she
went to
still
the-
bites a little bit sometimes.
Oh God. I went to the principal's office a lot. I used to try to like do mini vandalism with like food objects and like put
Food
Oreos.
objects.
Yeah, put Oreos on people's cars because it's supposed to take the paint off. I remember camping in my backyard when I was 12 with my friend, and we vandalized all these houses, and then we made out with each other after, me and this little girl. Just like, we just like were hurting broken little kids, and we did weird shit, and we were bad. And like, you know, how many of you had like weird things in your childhood where you're like, ew, like I don't know what that was, but that was weird. We touched someone in the wrong spot, and that's something that I'm forever forgetting.
If you ever heard the stories of like what boys actually do when they're discovering their sexuality and like and figuring out what they do when they have their first hard on, and like it's crazy talk.
Can I just share
Like,
the first time?
There's so much shame, so it's never
The
talked about.
first time that Spence ever tried to masturbate, he didn't know what to do, so he literally started slapping his penis because he heard the term slap the ham. So he's literally slapping himself. Anyways, disarming shame. I was a bad kid, and I came from a
Some of you are laughing way too hard.
He's like, you're not supposed to share that.
I actually don't care.
No, but it's like, it's the reality of honestly adolescence, figuring things out,
Accept me.
poor parenting. We
Thank
accept
you. Thank you very much. I'm married happily now. Thank you.
He still slaps it sometimes.
You're digging a hole.
I'm sorry. Anyways, breaking shame. Speaking of that, if I saw someone said I have a past of like weird sexual encounters, I didn't get to read all of it, but this is just a side note. If you guys have areas in your life where you feel like you want to hide, weird things that you feel afraid to share with anybody, my first thing I'd encourage you to do is in this group, whether you do it with one girl or you post it on the group, share what feels the scariest, what feels the grossest, and the thing you want to hide the most. Because I guarantee you, I saw like 20 of you at least wave your hand at me to a weird childhood moment. We all have them, and that's what happens when we're developing and figuring things out. We don't know what's what, and shaming ourselves and hiding it actually cultivates more shame. And it reinforces these beliefs that I'm bad or I'm weird or
I'm disgusting. I'm gross. I'm not trustworthy.
there's something uniquely wrong with me. Other people don't get this, or this is just like specifically gross, so I can't share this, but I'll share this. Like disarming that stuff looks like you coming out into the light and getting to be seen and known in a safe space. That's it. So like my number one encouragement to break shame is don't hide. I can even start a thread where we all share the weirdest thing that we've ever done. I'm going to start it right now because I'll forget.
You're starting a thread right now?
Yeah.
Nice. Just to check in with you guys while she is starting a thread about weird sexual stuff. You guys signed papers, okay? So it's all protected. So for just what we've had so far, like just checking in, like what's been the most valuable thing for you guys so far? If you could post that in the comments, like what's been the most valuable thing you've picked up so far? Some of you guys are still building trust. It's your first week. You may be like, I don't even know where I'm at yet, or I don't even know yet. That's fine. It's okay. Like take the pressure off and take our expectation off of you too. Like we get that. You don't know us. We're strangers to you. It's like, hopefully there's little moments that there's little trust built, but no two people need exactly the same thing either. So know that too. But what are some things that were really valuable for you so far? What are some nuggets, even if it's a small thing? What's been valuable so far? Everyone being so dang real and honest about their stuff and sharing laughter about it. Love that. I love how open you all are about everything. It's incredibly refreshing. Wow, Spencer's words. Refreshing. It's incredibly refreshing and validating that this is what I want in a relationship. Sharing shameful acts, totally. I know my most important, like my most intimate relationship besides Sammy, uh, I I ended up, when I was traveling for work, I woke up in a bed with a girl that was not my girlfriend, and that was the way that I had sex for the first time. Is I woke up in a random room with a girl that I'd had sex with. That's how I lost my virginity, and it was at a time when I was like super powerless with making decisions that night, and I'd traveled for 3 months on the road, and the next morning I had to call my girlfriend and tell her what had happened, and it broke me internally. And there's a lot of process inside it. There's a lot of things I can share, but it created a defining moment for me that said, Spencer, you are not trustworthy with women. Spencer, you're not trustworthy with God's daughters. Spencer, you're not good at relationship. You're not safe. And it was this huge defining statement that was laced with so much shame, and I didn't want to share it with anybody out of fear of them misunderstanding me. And it was something that I was like, I'm bad. And it was like, it wasn't when I was younger, it was when I was older. Some of you guys are like, well, I don't know if I have many younger memories. It's like, it's okay. There's defining moments that we've had in our lives that shape the way we see things. And what I did have was a tendency to shame myself anytime I did anything bad. And it made me bad. And that was like a huge one. But I had to walk through a really deep process of divorcing myself from that shame and those belief statements. And so there are things that we all have in our closet that need to come out to the light so that we can learn God's truths about us in our messes. The woman caught in adultery experienced the most freedom she ever had, not because she was found out, but because she was found out by Jesus. And all accusation was gone. What?
I'm just writing out the weirdest stuff I can think of. I'm sorry. You guys are going to die when you read this. Keep going.
This kind of stuff is important, though. And it's important to remove shame from it so it can be a conversation or dialogue. You know how many guys that I've talked to that they have had dogs lick peanut butter off of their penises, like when they're kids, because they're learning about their stuff, and they're like, oh, that sounds fun. And then they'll carry crazy shame about this thing that's actually funny to look at from like an 11-year-old perspective. You're like, you did what? like, how long have you been beating yourself up about this? It's like, that's not that crazy. Like, I have a farmer friend that lots of his friends
Oh my God.
have had sex with their farm animals while they're learning about their sexuality. Like,
Danielle.
there are people in this program that have experienced lots of trauma, like big traumas from sexual stuff from childhood, with family, with friends, with other boys that they grew up with men that took advantage of them. And it needs to be talked about in a space where you can receive love and understand that you were doing the best you knew how. Jesus, one of the most impactful things that he did was before his death, when he said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they're doing. These were people that literally put him on the cross and killed him in the most awful, disgusting death of the time, and of a lot of centuries. And the way that he expressed that on the cross, he said, forgive them, Father, they know not what they're doing. Like, we actually need to feel that at a deep place where we can experience his forgiveness, because when we're talking about forgiveness too, like with what Nikki brought up, you can't forgive someone unless you've actually received it yourself. It actually doesn't make sense. It's not possible for you to forgive somebody unless you've received it yourself. And you don't need it in the places where you've done a good job, where you've become a good girl. You need it in the places where you've actually written statements and conclusions over yourself as being bad, as not good, as being disgusting. The statements that you've made over yourself where you've agreed with other people. You've agreed with statements that people have made about you. So that's all I'll say about all that. So let me read some of this stuff. sharing shameful acts, wrestling with being bad versus being good. Your love will never be enough to satisfy people. That's a good one to learn. Yeah, if you don't get that one down, like just never do a ministry or a business or anything because you'll fail people left and right. Your team, your clients, your family, because they're like, you're all busy and you never have time for us.
Sounds oddly familiar, babe.
I don't feel into that. I actually was like, what would I feel if we, if that was like something that, like, what would be a common feeling that I'd go through, but I actually feel good with our family, like that we give them enough time and everything.
Oh, I was referring to everything you said before that.
Got it. Oh yeah, everything before that. That was dead on. Wanting to control my future is in my God spot. Keep going despite resistance. Everything, and God telling me, God telling me, who can speak anything about you? You are mine. You're my daughter. I am
Love
God.
that.
I love that. Kristen said everything. Kristen Schultz, the prayers over Mickey. Thanks for taking one for the team, Mickey. Super brave. Yeah, just trusting us with that too.
One thing that I have been feeling this whole call is like so much joy. Like I want to laugh, I want to play, I want to have fun. And one thing I was just thinking of is like, who feels like you don't know how to have fun and enjoy life and be light? Is there anyone who feels like I'm always heavy, it's always deep, I always feel stuck? I want to challenge and encourage you guys to find out what it looks like for you to play and have fun. Even in quarantine, like even when you're shut down, we don't have to be powerless to our circumstances, but I want you to start figuring out and exploring what's fun to me, what brings me joy, what spices up my life, what brings excitement in me, what makes me come alive. Like it's such a pivotal, one of our core values as a business in Alive and Free that we have with our team is playing. Like life is fun, it's spicy, it's hilarious, it's awkward, it's weird. And sometimes as we're going on this journey, we feel like I've got to get deeper and I need to process all of the time. Or maybe you're a 4, shout out to Maddie, and you're like, I just want to sit in my pain all day long and this feels good and this is my home. But I'd encourage you guys, like seriousness is not a fruit of the Spirit. I think Jesus was freaking funny. I think there are things that he did even in Bible stories that we read and we're like, we read it black and white like this religious priest on a pulpit who's like, and then John said to this, that I am the best disciple and blah, blah, blah. We read it through this boring lens when really I'm like, what was Jesus actually like though? There's a verse that says, he who sits enthroned laughs.
Psalm 2:4.
There's a verse somewhere in the Bible.
There's a verse.
He who sits enthroned, he laughs. He laughs. In his presence is the fullness of joy. That's another Bible verse somewhere in the Bible.
Proverbs 17:11.
Is it really?
Wait.
He's such a geek and I love it. And I'm so glad because otherwise I'd get judged. But there's so much joy in him. And for those of you who are like, I know how to have fun, like I probably need to get a little bit deeper, then ignore me. Because you have your own process to go on. But figure it out.
Oh.
Because life is so much richer. What?
Nothing.
Life is so much richer when we're connected to joy. And like you look at after we got Mickey connected to herself, she didn't even want to be laughing and she's like cracking up and she's trying to stop and she can't. Because in his presence, there's freedom, there's joy. It's beautiful. So like go on that journey. I'd encourage you guys. Sometimes we'll just watch comedy, not because we want to, but because we want to cultivate laughing in the day. We'll be like, we just need to be lighthearted. So like, let's watch comedy. Let's try to disrupt. Let's pattern disrupt and disconnect from this process and enjoy. Okay. Are you still reading through these? I know I hijacked you.
Yeah, you hijacked me.
Someone asked how you remember verses so well.
Well, that one I got wrong. It was actually, it was Psalm 17:22 or something like that.
He's got a smart mind.
Merry heart is good like medicine.
He's just smart.
I also grew up Baptist, you know, so there's like, I got to pick out the few benefits of that.
Oh, I know. Listen, this is why he remembers, because every time he remembered a verse or read a book in the Bible, his dad would pay him money. So there you go. My parents didn't give me shit, so I didn't remember anything.
I'm a 3 on the Enneagram, so if you give me a performance and a reward, then I will do it hard.
That's what he said. So,
Lindsay, you're 3-2. Totally. Do you have your own business?
she's like, not yet. One day. Okay. Let's do. Wait, let's scroll up. Let's do one more. And then let's go into some just praying and speaking some goodness over you guys. Oh, that's a good verse. He will once again fill your mouth with laughter and your shouts of joy. Job 8:21, one of my favorites of his promises for his kids. So good. He will once again fill your mouth with laughter and your shouts of joy. That is rich.
Yeah. Romans 15:13, it says, now may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing. It's not by striving, it's by believing. It's a good one. Not half joy. Not quarter joy.
I'm reading through some of the questions from before. So give me a wee little bit. Wait, these are all still the comments from your question.
Yeah, they love me.
Oh my God. I know you guys love Spencer. Aren't you so thankful for him? I almost ran Alive and Free by myself. That died real quick. I just was like, I want you, babe. Will you please quit your job? I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for trusting me.
You're easy to trust, babe. All right. I cannot find these questions for the life of me. Oh, wait. You're there. Oh, okay. Oh, being open to dating instead of running like hell away from it. You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Ashley, what are you afraid of? Are you still here? No, she's
Nope.
not here. Okay.
I recently acknowledged pain for the first time.
What about this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's great.
Bethany, are you here?
Bethany
yeah,
Wolf?
you are.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Good. Where do you live? Where are you from?
I live in Medina, Ohio.
Medina.
Cool.
hmm
Awesome.
Sorry, I don't have my camera on. I'm looking really hit today, and it's like 11:15 right now.
Fine.
That's awesome. Quarantine life.
Right.
I love it.
Cool. So
I want to hear, how
Yeah.
far into the program are you?
So I am like 10 minutes away from finishing week 8.
Nice.
Week 8. Yeah.
So you recently acknowledged pain for the first time. You're saying it feels really heavy and you still feel stuck.
Yeah, so I've been through multiple major traumatic experiences in my life, and I feel like the biggest thing that happened was, I feel like it was my fault, and I think that from there I just became a perfectionist and like shoved everything. And walking with God for like 2 years, I decided like, okay, like I'll quit smoking and leave my friends and just do better, I guess. And didn't grow up in church, so I learned everything on my own. I'm in Bible school, and I've had a lot of breakthrough in a lot of areas, but it's just hard because when I saw your webinar thing, it said that if you feel kind of nothing, then you're just completely numb. And I just like broke and was like, oh no, this is not good. Like, I don't even want to know where this is going to take me. But, so it just feels really heavy facing all of it. And I don't really know where to start.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know, I mean, pretty much everyone, especially when they start our program, feels that exact same thing. When you start connecting with all of the different things and you're getting aware and moments are coming to mind, it can feel super, like, I want you to wave your hand if you guys have felt that, like super overwhelmed because there's so many things that I need to deal with. And there's trauma memories and there's neglect coming to mind, and
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed and I don't even know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
First, you're just not alone.
Yeah.
Especially after numbing. Like, numbing is just a way that we cope, right? Just like we smoke, we drink, we have sex, we do all of these things that help us disconnect from what's actually going on inside of us. And it takes time after numbing to build safety feeling again. And
Yeah.
I know you know all of this stuff, but I just I want to share that so that first you give yourself compassion for, like, man, I went through a lot of stuff. I numbed it for a really long time, and now it feels really scary to even go there. Your heart, more than anything, needs to feel compassion from you and understood. Because it's easy to go in when you start getting the tools and go in and fix and probe and treat yourself like you're a project.
Mm-hmm. It feels so scary because I'm like, okay, when I open my heart up and then somebody comes in and like does something, then it's like just repeating everything all over again in my mind, you know? So then I just want to fix everything as soon as possible, you
Wow.
know, but I don't know.
It makes sense. And really, when it comes down to it, I would just encourage you to not feel like you have to heal everything. Like, as I'm saying this to you as a perfectionist, it's going to be very important for you to not feel like you have to fix everything, to stay away from that energy of needing to work on everything, needing healing in everything, needing to go after every moment. Like, what happens when you're going to start feeling safe to visit these moments and to get healing? When you feel safe enough to do that, you're going to want to go to town and do everything as much as you can, be as thorough as you can, and you're going to bring that same perfectionism energy into it. That will be your tendency. I'm not speaking that over you, but that'll be your inclination. And so I would just encourage you to come in with a lot of ease and compassion and to choose one thing.
Well, like what I'm hearing too is that she said that there's a really heavy pain that came up.
Yeah. With a lot of traumatic memories.
With a lot of traumatic memories, totally. What I'd recommend is going back through with that pain to like week 1, 2, and 3, because what you want to sort out is what was the clean pain, which is all the traumas. And because there's a different navigational system for your clean pain than the dirty pain, which goes, this is always going to happen for the rest of my life, or the powerlessness of like, there's nothing that you can do about this.
The clean pain essentially is like, there are things that happen to you that are just going to cause straight pain. There's abandonment, there's abuse, there's rejection. So that's clean pain that needs to be grieved and worked through. And then the dirty pain is the lies that come on top of that saying, I deserve this, or this happened because of me, or it's always going to be this way. But I want to kind of merge what you were sharing with what I wanted to say. And that's, if your heart's feeling safe enough to start letting you into some of that moments. And so even you feeling that heaviness is actually a good thing compared to you being numb. So that's progress. But now that your heart's feeling safe enough, going back and working week 1 through 3 again, and kind of letting yourself go through the process again, now that your heart's feeling safe. But what I want for you is to just pick one memory and one painful moment at a time. The other things that you know that happened to you, just be like, okay, we're going to just set those down and I'm going to trust God to take care of those. Because some of that heaviness is probably feeling the weight of all of the things that happened and it feeling overwhelming. Does that feel right?
Yeah.
How does all that sound to you so far?
That makes sense. I feel like I mean, I started a healing journey like, I'm not really good at time. I don't know, like a little over a year ago. So I learned some about like false beliefs, and I went to a good counselor for like only a month because I'm stubborn. And I mean, he was cool, and I was like, okay, thanks, bye. I have a vacation to go on, and I'm never coming back. So, anyways, but it was a good thing. They did like RRT, where they really take you through like inner healing and stuff, and so that went well. And I feel like this program has like picked all the pieces, like put all the pieces together for me. But I don't know, do you think it would help if I like told you one of the things, if we like walked through one thing? Do you think that would be good now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Because I feel like this has always been the deepest pain, because it's the hardest, and I think this is why I don't know, I just try to figure everything out. I think this is why I became a perfectionist after this. So when I was 12, I was babysitting with my friend Sky, and we were watching her cousins who were 2 and 3 years old, and like her grandpa was home, but we had some miscommunication, and like we thought that like he put the girls up for a nap, and like he thought we did, but basically they just went out of the sliding door of the house, and they went into the neighbor's car. And like because it was August, like by the time we found them, the 2-year-old girl was dead, and the 3-year-old died like 4 days later.
Bethany.
So like and then like the day after the funeral, like my parents told me they were getting a divorce, and like everything just crashed after that.
Honey, I'm so sorry.
And like my mom is a hoarder, and she's so unstable.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've had to be so strong for everybody
Yeah.
the whole time. And like my sister, like I always fought for her. She just fell into instant depression at age 10. That's how old she was when my dad left, and like she just couldn't do anything. And so I stood up and like fought for everyone, and I became so rebellious and was like, I'm not taking this shit from anybody. Like I'm not staying under this. But I never grieved it, you know. And now it's literally almost 10 years later. I'm 22, and I realize I've never really forgiven myself. I've never walked through it. And like my fears aren't like no offense to anybody, like I'm really sorry if this offends anybody, but my fears are not like my boyfriend's gonna break up with me, or like I'm gonna break my foot. My fears are like if I screw up, somebody's gonna die. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like it's just deeper than that.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
it makes so much sense. I'm so sorry. That's painful. That is so painful. And I wish I could say I understand how painful it is, and I just don't. I'm so sorry.
Bethany, could you just close your eyes for me?
Yeah.
I want you to, do you feel like you have like a spot with Jesus that you go to, or a space that feels safe where you spend time with him?
Yeah.
I want you to go to that spot. And I want you to bring all of that heaviness that you feel with you. My dog is choking. Okay. Okay. I want you to go to that spot with him.
Okay.
I want you to just say, Jesus, I haven't forgiven myself.
Jesus, I haven't forgiven myself,
And I'm carrying so much pain.
and I'm carrying so much pain.
What do you want to do with this?
What do you want to do with this?
What do you have for me?
What do you have for me?
Just tell me if and when he says anything or you sense anything.
He said redemption.
Hmm. I want you to ask him, what does that look like?
What does that look like? He said safety and stability.
Hmm. I want you to ask him, how are you going to give me those things?
How are you going to give me those things? All he said was through Cornerstone. That's my church. That's the most stable thing I have is ministry.
I want you to ask him, why do I need stability?
Why do I need stability? I think everything has always been so unstable.
Yeah.
Always.
Bethany, I want you to go back to that memory now. When you found out what was happening, when you found out that the girls were in the car. And then a few days later when you got the news. And I want you to get present with the way that 12-year-old Bethany felt. I want you to get present with what she was thinking, the blame that she felt, the accusation that was there, the responsibility she felt, feeling like she failed, feeling like she was the reason for that much pain. And when you feel like you can see her and get really present with her, I want you to see Bethany now, 22-year-old Bethany, walking up to her. And whenever you feel like you can see that, I just want you to tell me what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're experiencing.
I see her. I feel like when that happened, I was so in shock, and as any kid would, I was looking to my mom for any kind of comfort or reassurance,
Yeah.
and she didn't give it to me, whether she couldn't or not.
Yeah.
She didn't. And then I just felt really lost
Mm,
and didn't really know where to turn after that.
that makes sense. Well, I want you to see you now walking up to 12-year-old. You were 12, right?
Yes.
I want you to see you now walking up to 12-year-old Bethany. And I'm going to have you speak a few things over 12-year-old Bethany, okay?
Okay.
I want you to just say, Bethany, I'm so sorry.
Bethany, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry that you didn't get what you needed from mom in that moment.
I'm so sorry you didn't get what you needed from mom in that moment.
I'm sorry you didn't have any source of love to look to.
I'm sorry you didn't have any source of love to look to,
And that mom wasn't capable of being there for you.
and that mom wasn't capable of being there for you.
But I've held this over your head for a really long time.
But I've held this over your head for a really long time.
I've been really cruel to you
I've been really cruel to you
because I didn't know what else to do.
because I didn't know what else to do.
Because I didn't know how to make it right.
Because I didn't know how to make it right.
I didn't know how to change the situation.
I didn't know how to change the situation.
Bethany, I'm so sorry for what happened to you.
Bethany, I'm so sorry for what happened to you.
You were doing the best that you knew how to do.
You're doing the best that you knew how to do.
And I'm so sorry that it ended in so much pain.
And I'm so sorry that it ended in so much pain.
But I take the responsibility off of you today.
But I take the responsibility off of you today.
There was nothing that you could have done differently.
There was nothing that you could have done differently.
It was a miscommunication.
It was a miscommunication.
You were a little girl.
You were a little girl.
You shouldn't have had that much responsibility.
You shouldn't have had that much responsibility.
You didn't know any better.
You didn't know any better.
If you knew what to do, you would have done it.
If you knew what to do, you would have done it.
If you were a mom,
If you were a mom,
it wouldn't have happened.
it wouldn't have happened.
You were just a little girl.
You were just a little girl.
And I'm so sorry that I've put so much expectation on you.
And I'm so sorry that I put so much expectation on you.
But Bethany, you went through a loss.
But Bethany, you went through a loss.
And it's okay for you to feel sad about that.
And it's okay for you to feel sad about that.
And today I'm going to take you off the hook.
And today I'm going to take you off the hook.
I'm going to take the responsibility off of you.
I'm going to take the responsibility off of you.
Because you were doing the best that you knew how to do.
Because you were doing the best that you knew how to do.
And I want you to just say to her, Bethany, will you forgive me
Bethany, will you forgive me
for punishing you this entire time?
for punishing you this entire time?
I want you to tell me what she says.
She smiled and wanted to give me a hug. That's something I would do.
I want you to say, now will you forgive me for making a mistake?
Now will you forgive me for making a mistake?
What'd she say?
Nothing. I don't know. That one's hard.
It's okay. I want you to bring Jesus into that moment. And when you feel like you can see him, I want you to ask him, Jesus, do you forgive me for making a mistake?
Jesus, do you forgive me for making a mistake?
What's he saying?
He said, I already paid for that.
Mm-hmm. I want you to ask him, how are those little girls doing?
How are those little girls doing? He said he's already shown me he has, with them sitting with him and them being safe with Jesus. Way safer than they would have been here.
Yeah. I want you to ask him now, Jesus, are you going to take care of their parents?
Jesus, are you going to take care of their parents?
What's he saying?
he said yes, and he told me it's not my responsibility.
No, last thing, I want you to go back to little Bethany. And I want you to say, it's okay to make mistakes.
It's okay to make mistakes.
It's okay to mess things up.
It's okay to mess things up.
It's okay to get things wrong.
It's okay to get things wrong.
I'm sorry for putting so much pressure and responsibility on you.
I'm sorry for putting so much pressure and responsibility on you.
Bethany, will you forgive me?
Bethany, will you forgive me? She said, yeah.
And now I just want little Bethany and Bethany now to go spend time with Jesus. I feel like 12-year-old Bethany probably needs a whole lot of love from Jesus because he's the King of grace. He's the King of forgiveness. He's the King of redemption. He's the King of making all things new. And that little girl needs to really learn him and build trust with him so that she can trust for herself that the responsibility isn't on her. So that she can trust for herself that Jesus did actually pay for that. Because if she doesn't build that trust, she's going to be really tempted to carry the weight of that pain again. Because she's carried it for the last decade. And so one thing that I want for you, Bethany, is every day, if you can, for at least the next month, spend time with 12-year-old Bethany, spending time with Jesus. Whether it's you spending time with little Bethany or whether you just spend a month with 12-year-old you spending time with Jesus, ask him every single day, what do you think about me? What do you like about me? What do you notice about me? And if there's a day where you feel like you're carrying the weight of that pain or you're starting to harbor unforgiveness towards yourself again, ask Jesus those questions again. Ask him, what do you want to do with this unforgiveness? What do I need to do with it? How do you want to love me in this? Because my guess is, and sometimes there are things that we just get healed from and we never deal with them again. And then there are other things that because we have ingrained a certain belief system and partnered with something so much that it takes time and repetition and being reparented and fathered by him. So I want you to just spend time like creating a space for Bethany to be loved even though she made a mess. And learn grace in this area. Because it makes so much sense that everything feels like life or death to you. That's a big one, girl. It's huge. And it makes so much sense how you would feel like I have to get things perfect because if I don't, this is what happens.
When that girl just needed so much love and a safe space to grieve.
She needed a mama to be like, honey, you didn't know any better. Honey, it's okay. It's okay. Mistakes happen. And your mom didn't know how to give you that. But you can give you that. How are you feeling?
Good.
Yeah.
I feel better after sharing that with you guys. I think that's been the first thing that I've sought God for this whole time, you know, and then I kind of thought it gets healed in layers, you know,
Totally.
and I feel like when I do bring it up, it gets better, and then life feels a little bit lighter after that, so
Good.
that's good. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad that you just asked for the thing that you needed. I love that like answering your question practically, and you were like, well, how about this? Oh, okay.
I know. Seriously.
I like way to communicate so you can get your needs met.
Yeah, you seriously are so self-aware,
Yeah.
and the numbing piece, it makes sense with something that painful, and I think it is going to come by layers. And I think to go back to the beginning of the program, now that you have this thing that just kind of bursted open more,
Mhm.
I think bring that back through those layers.
Yeah.
That's what we've had to do. Like the 9-week process has been something that we've done for 10 years.
It's true.
You know,
Oh, okay. I thought it was like well, I knew you'd have to do it more, but I wanted it to be like you do it once and you're good to go.
Yeah, we all do. Especially perfectionists. You're like, okay, I'm good, right?
1
no-
month of counseling,
No
right?
problems. Thanks for sharing and for being vulnerable.
Yeah.
We really
No
appreciate it.
problem. Well, thanks for having the safe space for it.
Yeah.
Of course.
We love you, girl. Well, I
Yeah.
hope we can see your face next time.
And if you get a chance to go more calls with Heather too, she is amazing.
Yeah.
And she's doing really consistent calls, if not every day. I think
She's
3 or 4
doing
times a week.
3 times a week starting next week. Oh, we're going to go into announcement mode. Bethany, we love you. Thank you for
Love
sharing.
you too.
Yeah.
Announcement mode. Okay, so we brought on a coach named Melanie, and she's an enrollment coach. So some of you might have talked to her if you just got signed up last week or the week before. We originally hired her because she has worked with some of our mentors for a long time, and she does her own consulting and has her own business doing that, but she's also hosted small groups for our mentors. So she's phenomenal at getting people connected to their hearts. And whenever I was interviewing her and kind of unpacking what her strengths are, she's literally passionate about all the things I'm passionate about, like getting connected to your heart's voice leading you to truth, encountering the Father, all of the things that
And
I
she's
am
good
in
at
love
it.
with. She does. And she is phenomenal. And she's a mama and a wife and is just a powerhouse. So that being said, she's going to start doing calls for the next month every Tuesday at, don't have it in my calendar. Cool. No, wait. Tuesday. Why is this not in my calendar? All right, I'll tell you later.
Someone needs to be fired.
Me, I need to fire myself. I need an assistant, you guys. Someone move here. I need help. She's going to be doing a call next Tuesday at some point in time. I don't know if she's going to be sharing some of her life and her process and then doing like back and forth coaching after. But just expect every Tuesday, it's going to be maybe around 4 or 5 PST, somewhere in there. 4 or 5 PST. Schedule that in every Tuesday. And then Heather will be doing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from here on out, starting next week. We'll try to post like a full-on schedule. We'll have something where we have links to everything, but come hungry and leave happy because Melanie is amazing and we love her. And I'm super excited that she's on our team. So yeah, we'll put all the links somewhere where they're easy to find. We might create like a mass email and we might create a mass email and send it out so that you guys have all of the links right in front of you.
Yeah. And to just Christiana is not with our team anymore. We actually put her on a trial run, and she just has so much other commitment in her life right now. And
we tried.
Didn't work out.
Yeah.
She's awesome, but we're actually working on getting somebody that's full time. We didn't anticipate this much growth, so we are
adjusting.
We're adjusting to it,
and we're growing. We're trying to catch up.
Yep.
Okay, yay. Well, we love you guys. Thank you for spending your night with us. You're all phenomenal and so vulnerable, and we so appreciate it. And thank you for trusting us.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, it feels like such an honor. We really love you, and see you next week.
Yeah.
You're not saying anything, so. All right, we'll see
I
you
love
next
you
week. We love you. Have a good night. Go get some rest. Mwah. Bye, guys. Bye.